Good morning. My name is Amanda Rivera. I'm the hearing examiner presiding over today's case. The date is June 26th, 2025, and this is case DCI 2024-00040. It is a rezoning request to the CFPD district in Upper Captiva for an LCEC facility. Because this is a quasi-judicial hearing, all evidence and testimony must be taken under oath. So if you intend to speak, if you could please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll provide is the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for coming. The way that we're going to proceed this morning is first we're going to hear from the applicant. They will present their request in the case and call any witnesses that they may have. Following that, we'll hear from the county staff who will present their review of the case and their recommendation. In this case, they are recommending approval with conditions and deviations. After that, I will call forward the cards that I have for public comment. That is your opportunity to come to the podium to place any comments that you may have into the record. There is only one opportunity to speak, so I would encourage you to take notes as we go through things this morning to make the most of your time at the podium. And if you intend to speak at the board, you must speak at today's hearing, and the comments that you make at the board are limited to what you say today. After we conclude public comment, we'll come back to the applicant and the staff for their rebuttal and any closing comments. So with that, I believe that is all the housekeeping matters. Actually, that is not true. Staff, do you have the affidavit of publication?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you. Okay, so the affidavit of publication will be Staff Exhibit 2. Staff Exhibit 1 was the staff report. And with that, we can begin with the applicant. Good morning.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For your record, my name is Richard Aiken. I'm an attorney with Henderson Franklin. I'm here this morning representing Lee County Electric Cooperative, Inc. With regard to the DCI 2024-00040 application to rezone to CFPD on North Captiva. Before I begin, I do have a couple housekeeping matters of my own. So if I may, I have a copy of the applicant's 48-hour letter. I also have, we submitted with the 48-hour letter the updated master concept plan and landscape plans, so I'm going to submit copies of those to you. I have a copy that is both full size and 11 by 15. I've got 2 copies of each for you, and I've also got 2 copies of our PowerPoint presentation for you this morning.
Thank you. And the revised, I believe you said revised master concept plan, those changes will be discussed in your presentation?
Correct.
Thank you. And these are the extra copies?
Well, so those are the 11 by 17s.
Okay.
You have
The full size?
the full size there as well.
Okay, so let's see. We've got applicant exhibit 1 would be the 48-hour letter. And I believe we also received a revised 48-hour letter. Is that this version?
That's correct, you did. And all I did was change a witness name.
Okay, that was pre-labeled applicant exhibit 2, the revised, so I'll accept that here. And then the PowerPoint presentation would be applicant exhibit 3. And then the master concept plans I'll do as a composite from applicant exhibit 4. Thank you.
All right. And there is an extra copy of the PowerPoint there for yourself if you'd like it. So I'm here this morning with our project team, which includes Linda Miller. She is our project planner with Avalon Engineering. Paul Owen is our ecologist with Owen Environmental Consulting. You'll hear from both of them. Brendan Sloan is the project engineer. He is with Avalon Engineering as well. You'll hear briefly from Mr. Sloan. And David Colsveen with Landesco is the landscape architect. We have a slide for him as well, just to discuss some of the buffers and the plantings that will be on site. In the 48-hour letter, I don't want to get past that real quick. I just want to make one note. So we did point out just one thing in the 48-hour letter, which was a typo from the word pan to pad. There was one thing that we did not catch in the 48-hour letter that we have discussed with staff, and that is, if you look in attachment C, the open space, it notes open space in the amount of, I believe it's 62% in the current attachment C conditions. That was an older number from the other prior versions of the master concept plan. So the current master concept plan that you have recognizes open space as 59%, and we've discussed that with staff. They're okay with that change. So that's the only other change. Otherwise, we are in agreement with the staff report in all other respects.
Does that then also change condition 3 that required 62.7% open space depicted? Should that be 59?
Just 59%. That's correct.
Okay.
So those are the only changes. Otherwise, we are in agreement with the staff report. So getting into the project here just a little bit. So I've got an aerial up here on the screen for you. You can see this is the north end of North Captiva Island. And you can see here is, I don't know how familiar you are with the island, but the north end of the island is primarily the developed end of the island. There are a few homes south towards Captiva, but most of the development is up here. The middle of the island is largely preserved. You can see that, and this aerial is oriented north and south. So north is up here, south is down here at the bottom. Captiva passes up here to the north, and then Cayo Costa is further north. Pine Island would be back here to your east. You can see here there's a runway that is for the airstrip there on the island. It's a grass runway strip there. That's on the northern end of the island. And the project here you see is there's outlined in blue. That's the actual parcel location here. So you can kind of see this zoomed out. And I know that the hearing examiner usually likes to conduct a site visit. I don't know that you'll be able to do that on this location. So I was trying to give you a little bit of orientation zoomed out. And I will show you some zoom ins as well. You can see here this Safety Harbor. This is where most of the boat traffic comes into the island and docks. There's various docks here within Safety Harbor and marinas, dockage space for boats. And as you know, the island is only accessible by either, I suppose, airplane or helicopter or by boat. Those are the only ways to the island. So the parcel, you can see a zoomed in version of the parcel here. It's 0.24 acres. It's located at the intersection of Spanish Gold Lane and Hodgepodge Lane. It's directly across from the North Captiva fire station. So you see the fire station down here. Okay, this is south, this is north, this is the lot right here that we're talking about. It's got one strap number, and we've provided that here. The property is in the Outer Islands Future Land Use category. It's currently zoned RS1. It's located within the Upper Captiva planning community, and it's within the coastal high hazard areas. Pretty much everything on North Captiva is, as you can imagine. I will point out, and we'll talk about the zoning here in a minute, but the Captiva fire station here to the south is zoned CFPD, which is the zoning category that we're seeking to go to. I believe, and I've looked at just about all the zoning on the island, that's the only other parcel that's zoned CFPD on the island. There is some commercial zoning on the island, not a lot, but there's a little bit. And most of the commercial zoning is, for example, over through here along the waterway where there are some restaurants, marinas, things of that nature. There's actually a couple, strangely enough, commercially zoned lots all the way out here next to the beach. Don't know how that came to be. It looks like it's just a vestige of something old, but really the island is predominantly zoned RS1. That's pretty much what everything is on the island, with the exception of those few commercial areas and this CFPD parcel to the south. Another version of the aerial here, just a little bit further zoomed out again, trying to orient you since you can't go to the site or very easily go to the site. So again, you can see Safety Harbor here, and you can see the lot not far from the water. These are condominiums over here, and this is a PD zoning right here directly to the east of the parcel. You can see the zoning here, and again, you can see the CFPD parcels directly to the south. RS1 is what our current zoning designation is, and what, again, most of the zoning designation is on the island. And again, you see this PUD right here, this plan unit development for these condominium units here. So the request is to rezone the parcel from RS1 to CFPD for Community Facilities Plan Development. Would be to allow the development of an electrical substation with 696 square feet of mechanical pad housing for switch equipment on the parcel, as well as a 4,395 square foot office and temporary housing building for employees during restoration. The new facility would assist LCEC with maintaining and improving the electric service that's provided to current residents on the island. So I want to just talk a little bit about LCEC on the island so you understand. LCEC is a rural electric cooperative. We serve rural areas. It's now many of the rural areas that are areas that we serve that were once rural have become slightly less rural over time. But it provides electricity to Captiva, North Captiva, Cabbage Key, USEPA, the Barrier Islands, the Outer Islands, Sanibel as well, places where traditionally it was hard to get service out there. So LCEC was formed in order to provide electric service out there. We currently serve, it's around, we believe, 220 customers on the island was the number that I got. Most of the lines on North Captiva are underground, okay? And the reason for that is if you put them underground, they have a little bit less exposure during high wind events, and it helps with outages, helps with reliability. One of the troubles with underground lines is that they do have some challenges in flooding events. As you may imagine, sand gets packed into the lines and into some of the other equipment, which can make it difficult to restore and be a little bit time consuming. I do want to say up here, I know we've got some members of the public. I've heard some concerns at some of the other meetings about members of the public saying that LCEC wanted to put overhead lines on the island. I can tell you that LCEC has no plans to do that. That doesn't directly relate to anything we're asking you here today. However, since the public's here and I know they ask questions, trying to get out ahead of some of the ones they may ask. So no plans to change the fact that the lines are underground. That's been the model on North Captiva and remains the model. There was significant damage to the electric infrastructure in Hurricane Ian mostly, a lot of flooding, also in Milton and Helene with some of the other flooding, which resulted in LCEC having to go do restoration work on the island, as you might imagine. The damage in the restoration work that followed Ian caused LCEC to consider having this facility or a facility somewhere located on the island, specifically to streamline restoration work. And the reason for that is it can take a long time to restore electricity to a barrier island where there's no vehicular access. So you got to get out there by boat. And what does that do? Well, it really practically makes several things very difficult. Number one, you can't just have an employee, a worker, a lineman show up easily, the day of to do work. They have to come over by boat, which can take some additional time and can delay the amount of time that they actually have to work on the infrastructure on the island. The other thing is that practically speaking, it's difficult to get material and equipment onto the island because it must come by barge. And without a place to leave that material and equipment on the island, it takes time. Hey, we need more wire, we need more, whatever it is they may need. I'm not an expert on that. It just takes time. And you have to have a barge to get it over there, and oftentimes have to use third parties who may have other people trying to use them as well to get items over to the island. So as a result of some of the work that was done following Ian, LCEC began looking at, hey, is it possible for us to have a facility on the island where we can store some equipment, where we can store some things that we may need, materials, in order to do this restoration work. And so this lot was identified, and part of the reason why this lot was chosen is because it is directly across the street from the fire station. It is in a location that already has a community facility, if you will, right there. And so that was looked at. So that's how this project began. I want to point out, both for you and for members of the public here, because I do think this is an important part, is Section 163.3208 Florida statutes. All right, and part of what the request here today is to put in switching equipment, which is essentially an electric substation in this location. It won't be an electric substation quite like you would see in other places. It won't look like that. Part of the reason it won't look like that is because LCEC is designing it to look different in this location, given this island and how this island what everything else looks like. We don't want it to stick out like a sore thumb, and we don't want it to be completely different. But this statute provides that new and existing electric substations shall be a permitted use in all land use categories in the applicable local government comprehensive plan and zoning districts within a utility service territory, except those designated as preservation, conservation, or historic preservation on the future land use map or duly adopted ordinance. All right? So what does this mean? It means that we can do an electric substation on here without this rezoning. We don't need the rezoning. The use is allowed. All right? And I want to make that just very clear to everybody. We've had this discussion with the county as well. The county, as far as I know in my discussions with them, does not disagree with the fact that we can put this there. The use is not an issue. And I just wanted to include the definition of what an electric substation is. This also comes out of 163.3208. An electric substation means an electric substation including accessory administration or maintenance buildings and related accessory uses and structures, which takes electricity from the transmission grid and converts it to another voltage or lower voltage so it can be distributed to customers through one or more lines. So it's not just the substation, it's related accessory buildings and accessory uses. So again, I come back to what it is that LCEC is seeking to do here is allowed under statute, and we don't need to change the zoning to do it. So we could go put an electric substation at this location. We could put an accessory use and accessory building on the property, and we don't need to come through the county rezoning process to do that. So that begs the question, why are we here? All right. Well, we are here for a couple of reasons. Number one, LCEC would like to have, and part of this request is to allow a living quarters in this building, right? And what's the reason for that? Well, as I said earlier, During restoration events, when there's a lot of work to be done on the island, it's very difficult to get employees to and from the island. So part of this request is to allow a living quarters so that we can keep employees out there. There won't be someone there full time. That's not what it's envisioned. It's just envisioned to allow employees to stay there during restoration events while there's consistent work going on, so they don't have to come back and forth every single day. What that does is it increases the reliability of the electric infrastructure, and most importantly, it decreases the outage times, gets the electric back to people quicker. So that's part of the goal there. The other reason why we want to do this and why we're making this request is because we also recognize, and I'm sure that you will hear from some members of the public about right now on the site, there is some equipment and materials stored out there. We've been dealing with the county with that. The reason for that is that LCEC has been doing some restoration work continued on the island with the underground infrastructure that has taken a hit over some of the flooding events. Don't have anywhere else to store it, and it's been difficult, right? So we understand they don't like what's on the lot right now. We understand that. And so the goal here as part of this is to create a building that has enough indoor storage so that all that equipment and material can go inside and it's not sitting outside somewhere. And it's not either exposed to the elements in a way that would tear it up and make it unuseful, but not only that, it's also not unsightly to the residents in a way that they would not like it. In order to build the building that would contain everything, we did need a few deviations specifically from setbacks. And so you will see that we've requested some deviations. And in order to get those deviations, we kind of needed to come through a PD. But the goal of that is to really be able to get everything in a way that we would think would be more palatable and beneficial to the island than doing it as we could do under the statute in this moment, all right? So I know there's a lot of concern about the use, but again, the use is something we could do no matter what. So with that, unless you have any specific questions of me, I'm going to turn it over to Linda Miller, who's our planner, to go through the planning aspects of this project. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Linda Miller. I'm a Vice President of Avalon Engineering, and I'm the certified planner for this particular project. I'm requesting to be recognized as an expert witness for zoning ordinances. My credentials are on file, and I have been previously recognized as an expert witness in similar cases.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. The land use on the property. So this particular site is in the outer island future land use, and you can see adjacent to the site to the north and to the west and east, it has the same land use categories. As Richard said, the fire station has a land use of public facilities. As part of the requirement for this area in the planning area, we were required to hold a public advertised information session, which we did on February 25th of 2025 at the North Captiva Fire Station. We have the minutes of that meeting and the sign-in sheets provided as part of the record. We have provided Lee County a master concept plan. The master concept plan shows the footprints of the building, the mechanical pad, the buffer areas, the existing site conditions. So on this particular site, it's 0.24 acre site, about 10,500 square feet. On this site, there is several right-of-way easements that were put on this site. As you can see up here on the north section, there's a 15-foot right-of-way easement. Along Spanish Lane, there's also a 15-foot right-of-way easement. And along Hodgepodge Lane, there's also another 15-foot right-of-way easement. All of these easements really restrict the development of this particular site. We do have gravel roads. Hodgepodge Lane and Spanish Gold Lane are gravel roads. Spanish Gold is 30 foot in width and Hodgepodge is 15 foot. We do not know if these right-of-way easements will ever be developed with roads. We do not think that the north this will ever be developed with a roadway. But in the future, maybe someday down the road, this could develop as part of the right-of-way improvements for both of those two intersections. So developing the site with those in mind created the need for some deviations to the code requirements here, and we'll go through the deviations in a minute. So the site lays out an office and temporary housing building. It's a 2-story building. It's shown here. It's 4,375 square feet. And then we have a 696 square foot mechanical pad, approximately 52 feet long and 13 feet, a little over 13 feet wide. And it does fit nicely within the site. We do have the building set back from the right-of-way 5 foot here in the north, and we have it set back 5 foot from the mechanical pad here on the eastern side. The setback along the front is 11 feet from the right-of-way area, and then we have 11-foot buffer area here from the western side, which is close to the residential.
So is that measurement taken then from the easement line, essentially the imaginary line that nobody can see, instead of the property line? So do you know what the measurements would actually be from the property line in terms of how people would experience it currently?
Sure, yes, we go through that too on the setbacks of the building, but you're absolutely right, and that was one of the things in the deviation request, is that you do have the 15-foot of green space before we even start our development with our green space that we're providing.
So the setbacks would essentially function if and when those right-of-ways are ever expanded to occupy the additional 15 feet that's reserved on your property?
That's correct, correct. So, of course, the development of this goes through the Lee County in a DO review process, and we have to account for drainage, access. Even though there's no vehicles on the site, we do have a driveway attached. So, and then we have the deviations required. So the next slide talks about the deviations. There's 4 deviations required. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. So the reason why we provided an updated master concept plan is because our original concept plan that we provided, or the latest one that we provided in March, had a lift station. It was in this corner right here. So we had shown a lift station with some sewer lines that came in, and they ran down the side and they connected. Right now, we're in the process of working on how we're going to obtain water and sewer, and that's part of the DO process, but our master concept plan showed that, and we wanted to take that out of the master concept plan because right now we do not have a set standard for sewer or for water. Thank you. The requested deviations, we have 4 deviations that we're requesting. One is from Land Development Code 34-2192, which is the building setback required from a local street or a right-of-way easement. The second one is for LDC 10-416B, the buffer for adjacent parcels, Land Development Code 10-261 for the requirement for solid waste disposal facilities, and Land Development Code 34-935B1, 6, building setback from an CFPD zoning district. So go through deviation number 1. Land Development Code Section 34-2-192A, which requires a 25-foot setback from streets. So this is where even the right-of-way easement becomes a street, and we're required to be set back 25 feet from that edge of the right-of-way easement. So we have a right-of-way easement on the north, east, and south property lines. The northern property line will contain it contains a 15-foot roadway easement, but of course there's no road name on that area. And we're providing a 5-foot setback to the building and the mechanical pad from that 15-foot right-of-way area. The eastern property line contains a 15-foot right-of-way easement adjacent to the Spanish Gold Lane, and that's a 30-foot gravel road. This development will provide a 5-foot setback to the mechanical pad and 18.38 feet to the building. The southern property line contains a 15-foot right-of-way easement adjacent to Hodgepodge Lane, which is a 15-foot gravel road. The development will provide a 10.99-foot setback to the front of the building.
Hold on, Linda, if you can. So, and Madam Hearing Examiner, again, Richard Aiken for the record. So just, you asked this question a minute ago, but as far as the actual setbacks go, right? So these are right-of-ways that are not currently developed, and I can't say that they'll never be developed, but given the status of North Captiva, especially the one to the north, where there's another home, it doesn't seem likely that that would ever happen. So again, essentially, you really have the right-of-way, or you already, even with these deviations, you really have the necessary setbacks to where the existing right-of-ways are. It's just that where the existing roadway is, right? So there's this additional green space that's in technically a right-of-way that's never been developed, that I'm not aware of there being any desire or intent by anyone to develop these right-of-ways. And so that's why we're asking for this. But the actual setback to what's currently developed wouldn't really be a deviation if we didn't have to count the right-of-way that's never been developed, if that makes sense.
It does, and that clarifies my question. So for example, in the first, you're providing 20 feet of actual space. It's just technically if the 15 feet were to ever be developed, you would be providing 5.
Correct.
Okay. Was there any interest in vacating the easements? Was that something that was discussed to absolve the need for the deviations?
We did look into that briefly, and with I think the best way to say it is when you look through the history of what it would take to the parties that would have to be involved and all that, it might have taken more time and been more of a hassle, if you will, to try to get that done than to go through this process, especially given the likelihood of it ever being developed and what the actual setbacks are to what's developed. And not only that, but the homes that would be on the north side, so if we look at the north and there's the 15-foot right-of-way easement to the north, I mean, those homes would, as they're developed, I think would encroach on that in large part anyway. When you look at it, the reality is it's never going to get developed in that way, because it would be going down almost where the lot lines are where there's homes. So it's just unlikely. And we already provide, when you consider what the actual development is, where the actual streets are, if you didn't have those right-of-ways, you would have enough of a setback. It's just the way the code reads.
And that's something I assume when you talk to the county that they've agreed with. I think I'll ask
Correct.
staff that question as well.
Correct,
But
yeah.
it seemed like that was their provision. Okay,
And that was a big part of the discussion that we had with them when we discussed going through this process.
thank you.
Thank you.
So our second deviation is to Land Development Code Section 10-416D, which requires a 15-foot type D buffer along right-of-way or right-of-way easements, and that would be adjacent to Hodgepodge Lane, Spanish Lane, Gold Lane, and the north property line. Here again, you were required to have a buffer along the right-of-way, so you had a building setback as one part of this, then you have a buffer required along each right-of-way. So that buffer requirement would start at the 15-foot line, even though in some of those two corners, the Spanish Gold Lane, you already have the right-of-way in place. And then a 15-foot type C buffer would be required along the western property line. So for this development, we looked at this development to try to have a unified landscaping plan for this development, screening the entire building area. So we decided that a type A, which is a 5-foot green strip, enhanced with trees and shrubs around the perimeter of the site, would screen the garage area on the west side and the north side, and it would screen the pad area on the east side and the front of the building on the south. So we're providing a 5-foot green strip. Landscape architect will show you the plan and go through the species types. Deviation number 3, Land Development Code Section 10-261 requires commercial development to provide a dumpster enclosure on the site. We reached out to waste services on the island, and they provide services through trash can pickup. Because this is a limited use facility, a dumpster would sit there and maybe not be emptied, or maybe could not even be emptied. So we've reached out to them, and we will sign up with a trash collector. We did have this reviewed by the Solid Waste Development Department, and they recommended approval of this. Our last deviation request is Land Development Code Section 34-939B1, which requires a 25-foot development perimeter setback. Here again, it all goes by, going through the CFPD process, and the existing right-of-way easements require these kind of buffers. So, of course, our development will have an eastern perimeter setback of 11.06 feet, and then the rest of the setback areas for the building, as I mentioned before, and all the other deviations. And then I'm going to bring up landscaping. David Costin.
Before you do that, I had a question on the master
Sure.
concept plan. It talks about, let me find here, it says for the building, that the building foundation, it gives the square footage for the first floor, and then it says second floor mechanical pad. How is that, can you kind of describe
Sure.
what it's gonna look like?
Sure, so the mechanical pad is actually raised up to be this level of the actual office area. So it's right with the same height of the garage. So the mechanical pad can be accessed from inside the building on the second floor level out to maintain the pad. So this pad is raised. So it is, you will have some posts underneath it, and then we will have some fencing to block it, but it is a raised pad.
Okay, and I assume that's for flooding concerns?
Yes.
The equipment's kept?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Are there any elevations that you have of what it would look like? You don't
Yeah.
have to get to it yet if you do, I'm just curious.
Yes, we do have
Okay.
elevations.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. My name is David Coolsveen. I'm the landscape architect. I'd like to be recognized as an expert witness on this, and as I have been in the past, and my credentials are on file with Lee County.
Thank you.
I'll be presenting the master landscape plan, which discusses the requirements. In this situation, they have the deviation, which provides for enhanced buffers around all adjacencies, all parcels, northeast, west, and south. So basically, we're going to a 5-foot enhanced where trees are typically only needed. We're going in above and beyond that and providing more trees, and also in addition to that, shrubs where they're not required. The general trees are pretty straightforward based on the site area or the parcel size. And so basically to the north, we've got a requirement for 4 trees, and we're providing 5, and then in addition to that, 40 shrubs. On the east, along Spanish Gold Lane, it requires 5 trees. We're providing 6, and also
But when you're saying it requires, are you saying after the deviation, or are you saying without the deviation?
without the deviation.
Without the deviation,
Yeah, just
what
the
you-
basic requirement, yeah.
Thank you.
So we're providing one added tree and 50 shrubs, which again, all these shrubs are in addition to what's required. And then to the south on Hodgepodge Lane, providing 6 trees when 4 are required, and also 30 shrubs. And to the west, 5 trees and 50 shrubs. There are no vehicle use area requirements for parking lot trees. It's basically just the building, the green areas, and the driveway in. So it's pretty straightforward. It's all native landscaping, which is good for the area. Once established, these trees, if they were to lose irrigation or water supply, they would be fine. It doesn't take long for them to get established. Some of the trees we were thinking about utilizing are the Daehoon holly, sea grape, gumbo, limbo, stuff of that nature that are already found on the island. And the shrubs would be either red tip, cocoa plum, something that's hardy like that, or green buttonwood, something of that nature that tolerates. All these plants also tolerate salt water. So, as we've seen in past storms, some of those that are very native, once they have salt water on their roots, can even, that it gets the best of any plant, really. So, but to the best of our ability, we're putting in native plants that are saltwater tolerant. I believe that's most of what we need to discuss. This landscape's going to provide like a small to medium size tree, which is going to also enhance the screening ability, looking inward from off-site from the residential and parcels and from the right-of-ways. So being that this building is a little higher up, that'll serve to really buffer and screen that development.
Do you know approximately the opacity that you're hoping to achieve with this?
So to the west, we have palm trees. There'll be a gap, in time between the canopy of the palm trees and however tall these shrubs are allowed to be maintained, or not allowed, but will be maintained to. So theoretically, it could go all the way up to the canopy of the trees. I don't think that that's necessarily what we're looking to do, but I would say somewhere in the 75% plus range on most adjacencies. And those would be starting in a tiered fashion down from the lower elevations on up to, you know, the foundation of the building, which is completely surrounded by the shrub hedge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Paul Owen to come up from Owen Environmental.
Good morning. I am Paul Owen with Owen Environmental Consulting. I'm the project environmental consultant for the project. I'd like to be recognized in the field of environmental sciences, and I've been accepted as that in this format several times.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, this is going to be real short because there are essentially no environmental issues on this project. We coded the land use category after we went on the site in August 26, 2024. Called it undeveloped land within residential areas, but it is disturbed, and it has been disturbed for years. There's really no native habitat. There's some scattered native trees and scattered native shrubs, but for the most part, it doesn't function as a natural habitat. We evaluated the site for wetlands. There are no wetlands on this site. It is entirely upland. We did a protected species survey on the site on the same day and found no species or signs of them on the site. That concludes my presentation, if you have any questions.
Our next part of the presentation will be from Brendan Sloan, talk about stormwater and site design.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. Brendan Sloan. I'm Vice President and Director of Engineering at Avalon Engineering. I've previously been acknowledged as an expert in the field of civil engineering and would request to have the same today.
Yes.
Okay. So mine will be somewhat short and sweet as well. So the project site's been designed to meet the water quality and nutrient loading treatment requirements of the South Florida Water Management District. To meet those requirements, the stormwater system has been designed to retain the full 25-year, 3-day storm event within the dry retention areas that are shown on the master concept plan, with no discharge off-site to provide that treatment prior to that 25-year, 3-day storm event, and to protect the neighbors from any on-site runoff running off-site. Since the project is under the requirement for the 10 acres of overall site acreage and 2 acres of impervious area, the design of the stormwater will be reviewed by Lee County during the development order review process, and then after approval we will be required to upload the stormwater designs to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection website for a 10-2 certification. So in summary, this site's been designed to meet the requirements of the South Florida Water Management District, will be reviewed by Lee County and approved, and I'll answer any questions you might have.
Can you just briefly describe how that would work? It looks like the dry detention areas are along the south and east side.
So the dry retention areas will be interlinked, and as rainfall falls on the site, there will be a perimeter berm set at elevation 3 that will hold stormwater back. Water will drain into the retention areas, and the sand out at North Captiva is, the soil out at North Captiva is very sandy, so it percolates into the ground very quickly. So it's designed to treat by percolation into the ground, and at that 25-year, 3-day storm event, the water would stage up and then eventually go over the berm, which meets the requirements of the Water Management District. So it meets the character of the area. The area itself is tidally influenced, so it's not really designed for rainfall per se. It's more of a stage storage during hurricane events and things of that nature. But we meet the requirements and will prevent off-site runoff to the neighbors.
And that it will be an improvement over the current conditions?
Yes. So our design is a pre versus post look. So we look at the project in a pre-condition, and then we have to make it better in a post-condition.
Because right now there's no detention areas on the site.
Absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now I'm going to go through the requirements for the PD and the zoning. So in section, LD section 34-145, there's zoning requirements that must be met, and those are listed here. We're going to have a slide for each one. There's part of the plan development zoning requirements, and those are A, B, and C, and I will go through those two separately. Consistency with the LEED plan, that's one of the requirements for this particular project. We are consistent with policy 1.4.2, which is the outer islands. We are compatible with the outer islands. We're across the street from the fire station. This is an essential services use, which is allowed in all future land use categories and planning districts. Policy 2.1, we're contiguous and compact in the patterns here. This is already a pre-platted lot that we're developing on. We're not expanding past a pre-platted lot. We're across the street from the fire station. Policy 2.1.3, all land use categories permit public utility use. As I said before, we are an essential service use, and we're encouraged in all future land use categories and planning districts. For that reason, this development is consistent with these goals policies of Lee County. We're also consistent with policy 2.2.1. Rezonings are required to be looked at for compatibility and availability of services, and we have a report that we've gone through all the different departments to look at fire, police, school, utilities, and so forth. There is no utilities on the site. There's no public utilities on the site, and our development would not create any more need for schools or parks. Objective 26.1, preserve the character and the environmental way of life in the North Captiva Community Plan. Our elevations and buildings really fit into the development. Looks like a single-family house. We are providing the extra electrical equipment to improve the electrical services out there. This zoning amendment is an essential service use, and essential services encouraged in all of these future land use category districts, and we believe that this development is consistent with these goals. It needs to be compatible with the existing and planned uses in the surrounding area. This facility is located directly across the street from an existing gravel road right-of-way from the North Captiva Fire Department. It would have the same zoning district as that fire department. The design of the facility is compatible in height and appearance with the existing development on the island. We are asking for 30 feet in height and no more in height for our building. Landscaping is and will be native and will screen the enclosed garage and underneath the mechanical pad. An essential service is a compatible use in all zoning districts, and this development has a limited schedule of uses within this PD. Will provide access sufficient to support the proposed development intensity. A driveway to the garage is provided, even though there's really no cars or trucks on the island. I'm sure Lee County Electric will have some equipment that they will need to store in the garage. The expected impacts on traffic facilities will be addressed by existing county regulations. Again, the island is really accessible by bicycle, pedestrian, golf carts. There's no cars or trucks on the island. The road widths on the island are narrow, and they consist of sand and gravel. Will not adversely affect environmental, critical, or sensitive areas. As Paul mentions, there's no natural resources on the site, no protected species, no wetland area. The site will provide 33.3% open space, but actually that open space requirement is landscaping. Our open space is actually 59%. The project, we have no indigenous plantings on the site that we need to protect. All of the landscaping will be native. The project will be screened by all sides by an enhanced type A buffer consisting of trees and shrubs. The next one will be served by urban services if located in a future urban future land use category. Well, we're not in a urban future land use category, but we did look at this for services. Public sewer and water are not available to the area. There is no public transit. The site is in the Upper Captiva Fire Protection Service area and directly across the street from the fire department. This CFPD will not generate any need for public schools or additional park space, and there's no employment centers around this development. The proposed uses are appropriate at the proposed location. And as Mr. Aiken said, Lee County Electric looked at a site on the island, and the site was selected because it was directly across from the fire department. Having two essential services uses directly next to each other really helps to provide compatibility for this particular site. And we are similar, our architectural elements of the building itself are very similar to a single-family home. The recommendation conditions provided are sufficient safeguards to the public interest. So staff did recommend some conditions for this project. They were mainly buffer requirements of what needed to be provided there with the need for open space requirements. And we believe that does protect the public interest. And then the last one is that each deviation requested either enhances the objective of the plan development or preserves and protects the general intent of the code to protect the public. We took great care in looking at this particular site to provide a buffer area, to provide unified landscaping, to be able to screen in the future the building itself, to look at the design of the building itself to fit into the site, to provide the mechanical pad up, raise the mechanical pad for protection of the equipment. So we believe that our 4 deviations requested are necessary to the plan development. They're minor in nature. They protect the intent of the land development code and protect the public. Now I'm going to bring it back to Richard to give you a summary.
Thank you, Linda, and for your record again, Richard Aiken. So just a couple things I want to address before I hit the summary, and this will be part of my summary. But as you well know, Madam Hearing Examiner, the staff report contains a list of uses that are approved on the property. All right, and I think, we've got some public here, so I did want to point that out. I think it's important to state what the uses that are allowed on the property are and what they are not if this is actually approved. So just to state clearly, so there is not allowed, if this is approved, an outdoor storage use on the property. It would be indoor storage only, all right? And I know that's some of the concern that the public has had about what's been out there, not only now, but at other times. So it does not allow an outdoor storage use. It would be only indoor storage, and the building has actually been designed so that we would be able to put everything inside, as I stated earlier.
Is that, not to, again, I'm still having a hard time visualizing what this is like since it will be elevated. Is the indoor storage going to occur on the first floor, essentially?
Yes,
It'll
so,
all be shielded.
and you asked about an elevation, right? So the idea here is that we've got a roll-up garage door similar to what the fire station has, where you could put everything inside underneath here, right? So this is a look at the elevations. You see the mechanical pad elevated up here. This is the switching equipment that essentially makes it a substation right here. And you can see just other looks at it here. We've kind of designed it, as Linda stated a minute ago, to look as much as possible like many of the other residential homes in the area. We're not looking to put anything palatial or massive or that looks terribly commercial here. We just want to have the storage area underneath in this area. And many of the homes on the island have roll-up garage-style doors already in location so that they can put things underneath. So this is what it will look like. And again, the buffers will be around the edge to shield it as well.
So first floor storage, and then second floor is where you'll have the office and the caretaker's quarters.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. So one other thing I wanted to point out, because we talked about the deviations, and I wanted to just make one more statement on that point before we get away from it. So specifically the right-of-ways. If you look at the master concept plan, you can see that, for example, Spanish Gold Lane currently is a 30-foot right-of-way, and there's an additional 15 feet set aside for that right-of-way that's on our parcel, right? So if you add 30 to 15, I'm pretty sure my math gets me to 45. And I don't know what there is as far as a right-of-way on the other side, which would be the east side of Spanish Gold, but it appears to me, and I think it's a reasonable conclusion based on everything that we see, that when this area was originally platted, they platted it with the size streets and roads, the potential for that, the ability to expand them as though it was vehicular access, all right, as though you had the ability to get vehicles to the island either by ferry, by bridge someday, or something like that. That's never happened. As far as I know, I don't believe that there's any likelihood or chance that will ever happen for many reasons. As we know, there's no bridge across Redfish Pass from the south, and I know that the roads on Pine Island do not have the ability, and there's no ability to put a bridge across there. So things would have to change in our world significantly beyond what the current Lee plan and other planning documents have planned for North Captiva in order for any of that additional right-of-way to ever be needed. So practically speaking, we are meeting the setbacks in practicality, even if we are asking for these deviations. So with that, just in summary, so the request complies with the Lee Plan's goals and objectives and policies, as Linda testified. It's compatible with the existing and planned uses within the surrounding area. And we talk about compatibility. First of all, this use is already recognized as a compatible and allowed use within the future land use anyway. And so we have that, but we've also taken care to increase the buffer, enhance the buffers in order to try to ensure compatibility and try to assuage any concerns there might be around that. It will provide appropriate access to support the proposed development. We've talked a little bit about that. This is actually, I think, maybe the only case I've ever had where we did not have to talk about traffic because there is no traffic on the island, but we do have access. The transportation impacts, we don't really have to talk about that because, as I said, there's no traffic. The proposed use is appropriate at the proposed location. Again, we picked it because it's directly across the street from the fire station, which is the only other CFPD use on the island. And I believe, actually, if you look back at the zoning history, that fire station was rezoned to the community facilities back in the mid-90s. They rezoned at least part of those parcels from residential single family. The required design elements provide sufficient safeguards, and again, we've shown you kind of what we anticipate the elevations would look like. And LCEC has already spent quite a bit of time going through this design process because they are anxious to get this facility up and going out there. So the idea here is that it provides safeguards not only by bufferings, but by the way that it's designed to look, and by the way that and the uses, the specific schedule of uses to keep all the storage inside so that we don't have issues with compatibility or concerns from the residents. And finally, the staff report does recommend approval. So with that, I don't think I have anything else unless you have any additional questions of our team.
My only question is the unique nature of it, as you said, it's quite compact, but in terms of noise generation for off-site impacts, is there any expectation that there would be, is it noisy equipment that would be impacting anyone?
No, so we're not anticipating that there would be any noise issues. As you know, there's already a Lee County noise ordinance that's in place. We would have to comply with that. Certainly, absolutely have no concerns about complying with that. It's not a noisy use. Also, the other thing that might be related to that would be light. We don't anticipate any light. Again, at this location, we don't anticipate a lot of work going on at this station or at this location. It's really going to be a hub to store things inside, and then the residential use is just like any other residential use, except that it would be for workers temporarily. The actual mechanical pad that contains the substation use does not generate a significant any noise that would be of any real concern.
I just had one last question. You mentioned temporary uses. So there's condition 4 that says the temporary uses include overnight stay of employees working on the island. Is that needed? We have a caretaker's residence use already. So what was the intention of that condition?
So when we reviewed the staff report, we didn't have any issues with that condition, but I don't know what staff's intent was there. So maybe Mr. Benamshin can talk about that. I don't personally believe that it's necessary, but that's the intent anyway, so we don't really have a concern with it.
Is there a requirement or a limitation on how many workers that you anticipate having there at any particular time? I don't know if that's what they were trying to get to, and I'll ask staff when it's their time, but when you say that, how many workers are you anticipating having on the site during an event?
You know, I'm not sure that we've really thought about how many. I mean, practically speaking, it would be limited to whatever, you know, the space would allow. And I mean, it's not going to be a bunch, put it that way. But I mean, we have not specifically discussed a limit on the number of employees. And I think, to be transparent as possible, the number of employees is likely to be more dictated by the scale of the work and the outage that they're dealing with at that time than it is by anything else. Again, in storm restoration events, there could be a time when you'd need to have, you know, a handful of employees there, some of whom might stay overnight. The vast majority of the time, there's not going to be anyone staying there because, you know, there just is not a need on a regular basis to have someone there all the time. There are, you know, currently, you know, we're in June right now, so as I'm sure everyone's noticed, we have these afternoon thunderstorms that roll through. They can sometimes cause outages due to, you know, downed trees. Downed trees are much less of a problem on North Captiva because they're underground lines, right? But there can be outage events that occur, and so there might be somebody that would go over there to do some restoration work. I suppose it's possible that in a scenario where someone was sent over in the afternoon, they stayed overnight and finished what they did in the morning. But generally speaking, the plan is not to leave people there throughout normal course of business as usual, as the co-op refers to it. There would be no need to do that. It's really for when they have work planned. Hey, we're going in and we're going to fix some underground lines that we know have potential I'll just say issues that need to be addressed because we don't want there to be a reliability concern. So we've got a planned work schedule for this week. We're going to have workers over there doing stuff, or when there is an unforeseen outage like a hurricane event or something like that.
So it really is a reservation for severe storm events, it sounds like, for the most
For
part.
the most part. And there certainly is, you know, LCEC does plan work events for, hey, we've got this area of our service territory where we need to go work on this line, or we want to go work on the transformers on the islands, or update some of the lines. So they might plan a work event, you know, during a time of the year when they didn't expect bad weather so they could get that work done. But that's going to be not a common event, put it that way.
Okay, thank you. That was the extent of my questions.
Thank you.
I'm ready for staff whenever you're ready. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm hearing examiner. Excuse me. Sharon Badamchian from the county zoning. My resume is on file. I was recognized as expert in zoning and planning issues. I would like to be recognized as such at this time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Well, basically what they are requesting, as you heard, is to have essential services group 1 facility there and temporary employee housing. And that's the location. The future land use designation everywhere is outer island with the exception of the firehouse, which is public facilities. This is the zoning. As you can see, for the most part, it is zoned RS1. There are some C1, PUD, and CPD, and also the fire station is CF, community facility. This is the master concept plan that you just saw, and they are requesting 4 deviations. Out of 4 deviations, 2 of them are for setback. Well, they have some odd easements that were designed for like 2-lane paved roads and even with additional area for turn lanes. That's not going to happen here. We are not going to have turn lanes and paved roads. So, okay, without measuring from the property line, the setbacks are 20 feet from Spanish Gold, which our code requires 20 for private roads, 25 from Hodgepodge, which again our code requires 20. And on the north side, the setback from the property line is 20 feet, which our code requires 20 feet. And on the west side, their setback is 11, which our code requires 7.5. So they are meeting or exceeding the setbacks, not taking into account the existing easements. And those easements, as we discussed, are not really needed in the area, but they are not easy to basically vacate them. With that said, the landscape buffer, landscape deviation, the reason for it is they have the width. However, part of it is within the easement, and we cannot count that as part of the landscape area, even though it's green, but it's not counted as part of the landscaping. So the landscape area shrunk, and that's the deviation request. And for that, they are providing additional plans, enhanced landscape plan. Concerning, and the last one for the trash. Over there, I talked to waste management. They don't have big truck to come and lift up the big container and dump it. So they are okay with small residential type trash tot, or whatever it's called. Okay, with the conditions mostly regarding landscaping, there's one condition we have regarding temporary use. Okay. CFPD allows caretaker's residence. CFPD does not allow residential. My worry was, staff worry was that we say caretaker's residence and leave it at there. There's a definition for caretaker's residence is the person who takes care of the facility. Those people staying there overnight to take care of the lines and such, they are not going to take care of the building. So they are not caretakers of the building. And that's why we added that condition that temporary use of sleeping quarters during, after hurricane. And that is the reason for that condition. With that said, these are our policies. They discussed in detail. I'm not going to go over them, but basically allows this type of facilities in any planning district or land use category. And there are two violations on the site, both of them concerning those storage, outdoor storage, which this rezoning is supposed to take care of it. They are going to build a building and everything is going to be indoors. And the only storage allowed is indoor storage. We are not allowing outdoor storage. With that said, staff recommends approval subject to staff conditions and deviations. And we talked, the 48-hour letters, yes, I apologize. Instead of pad, I typed pan. That was a typo. And open space, we condition 62, they're doing 59, which is still more than what the code requires. Staff has no problem with that change. That concludes my presentation, and if you have any questions.
No, I did not. Thank you. Did applicant have any questions of staff?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we begin the public comment, we're going to take a brief break of just 10 minutes to give the court reporter a break before we get into that section. So we will come back at 10:20. Thank you. Okay, we're back on the record. As I said, I'll call the cards in the order that I have them. And then when you come to the podium to speak, if you can please just state your name for the record. The first one that I have is for Tom Murphy. There we go. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm the authorized representative for Tom Murphy, and he adamantly opposes this development or rezoning.
Thank you. The next card I have is for Georgia Murphy. Is that you as well?
Yes, ma'am. I'm the authorized representative for Georgia Murphy, and she also adamantly opposes this rezoning.
Okay. What is that? Did you want to state your name? Did you have any comments as well?
My name is Alex Murphy. I'm in there coming
Okay.
up.
Oh, wait, do you want me to call? I can call your card now if you want me to find it, so you don't have to keep
I
sitting
don't
down
mind,
and
whatever's easiest for
getting
you.
back up. I can find it if you want to go ahead and continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner. My name is Alex Murphy. I am a full-time resident on North Captiva. I'm also a small business owner running my own logistics company out there, taking material and people to the island. And I'm also president of the Upper Captiva Civic Association. So to start, for the Civic Association opposes this rezoning. We've taken a survey, 192 surveys sent out. 82% of the respondents oppose rezoning in all forms. Then I'd also like to talk about how the land that they're trying to rezone, it's right in the center of the island. Their fire station was set up back in the 80s. Everybody around there bought on the premise. They knew the fire station was right there, but nothing else around there. It does change the characteristic of the island. As someone who has spent my whole entire life going out to North Captiva, started going out there when I was 1 year old. I've seen a lot of change. I've seen a lot more houses be built. But the message has stayed the same with no rezoning. There is commercial land available. All of the commercial land that they pointed out along the canals, there is some for sale. There's other parcels where this could be done that would not change the characteristic of the island. I'd also like to, so that's how it violates Objective 26.1. But they also have combustion vehicles, which according to Goal 26, that is also not allowed. The community has reported them multiple times to the county, and nothing has been done. And so people are tired of looking at all of that commercial equipment on a residential lot. It's an eyesore. Let's see. I'd also like to point out and note for the record, there are no roadways on North Captiva Island. There are private pathways. They are not gravel, they are sand. The county nor the state recognizes them as roadways. But from the purpose of setbacks, they've always viewed them the same. So they are shared between the common property owners. When it comes to sewer and water, at their meeting in February, they said that they were trying to tie into a wastewater treatment plant. That has to go before a membership. That is not a board vote. That is a membership vote, and that has not been discussed. Water, a well has to be drilled. I know that others are going to talk about that. And then very few houses on their plan, what they showed, very few houses are enclosed fully underneath. That is no longer allowed for a residential house. Only those that are grandfathered in can do that. So it does stick out. Cocoa plums that they noted, those are not saltwater tolerant, as seen from Helene and Milton and Debbie and Ian and all the other storms that we've had. When it rains out there, water sits on the ground. It doesn't percolate very fast. It will sit for 2, 3, 4 days at a time, especially on other parts of the island. The lot that they are trying to rezone, right across the street at the fire department, there was over 4 feet of water in the bay when Helene came through. It goes underwater all that vegetation with the salt water will die. There are much more resilient plants, but it's, I'll yield my time to more people, so thank you.
Thank you for coming today. The next card I have is for Lacey Farley. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lacey Farley. Good. I'm a resident on the island. My husband and I, we own 2 homes. We've been owners out there for close to 8 years now. So, and we have a particular interest because if you see that house right next to the lot, just north of it, that has 4511 on it, that is our home. That we have been, and I speak for all the homeowners on the island, this is particularly upsetting because we've just spent the last 3 years of our lives hiring attorneys, fighting insurance companies, barely able to rebuild. I mean, we're not even done yet. So to have this on top of it, we don't have the heart or even the funds to really fight this properly. But I can assure you, I speak for everyone. We are all categorically against this. And I'm going to mention some reasons. So first and foremost, LCEC is claiming the rezoning of this residential lot is essential to the island. That is not true because, for one, we don't want their version of what they're doing. And as it's been stated, and it's going to be stated over and over again, there are commercial lots on the property that are well away from residences. That there's one in particular, I have a picture of it in here I'd like to present, in fact, if that's okay. You know what, before I go into all that, can I read the statements from other homeowners? Okay, so I have several that, you have to know most of the homeowners, like 9 out of 10 at least, are out of state right now. They can't be here to fight for their rights. So I have a few that have designated me to represent them. This first one is Jeff and Shelley Waters. It says, "To whom it may concern, we're authorizing Lacey Farley to relay our thoughts from this email as our proxy on these proceedings. We purchased a property on North Captiva Island because of the well thought out and intentional designations between the residential and commercial properties. Although we appreciate LCEC and its miraculous efforts during times of crisis, we strongly disagree with the proposed use of the residential property on Hodgepodge Road. Currently, there are several commercially intended properties available that would better serve LCEC and our community. We strongly oppose the rezoning of the property in question. Thank you for your consideration, Jeff and Shelley Waters," and it lists their address on the island. Another one, I, Cindy L. Petrat Hayden, homeowner of 4550 Hidden Lane and 4551 Oropesos Lane, North Captiva, authorize Lacey Farley to be my agent and represent me in the above-mentioned matter. First, as a homeowner on an island inherent to outages, I'm very appreciative to services provided by LCEC. However, I have issues with this request based on several items. There is available property already zoned commercial, which is appropriate for the needs of LCEC to provide a substation for the island. Why rezone residential to commercial when the appropriate ratio of commercial versus residential is already set in the master planning of the island? LCEC has occupied the property on a temporary basis and has been an eyesore for all that drive by on the way to homes and the beach. They have already set a precedent as to how they will be maintaining this substation in a residential area that has been valiantly trying to rebuild and become the beautiful island escape we homeowners strive to create for ourselves and others. Additionally, rezoning this lot would most likely have a negative impact on the property values, which would affect all our homeowners on the island and eventually impact the county taxes collected on said properties. I also fully believe that if this rezoning request is approved, it sets a precedent that others are waiting for the door to open and they will follow suit quickly. Where does it stop? It is my opinion that this should not be granted, as it is not required for them to provide the necessary and appreciated service with lots and land already available as is. Thank you for your time, Cindy L. Pretret Hayden. Another one. My name is Erica Maynard Julius, and Lacey Farley is representing me today on June 26th at this rezoning hearing since I'm out of town. I've lived in Fort Myers for over 20 years. My husband and I have owned our home at 424 Gulf Bend Drive, aka Safety Harbor Number 5, for more than 5 years. I've seen the town of Fort Myers as well as the island in North Captiva change dramatically over the past 2 decades. I'm asking Lacey to represent our very strong views against the LCEC request to rezone this residential lot and construct a substation, holding area for equipment, and building for the following reasons. Number one, rezoning of residential lots should not be allowed or tolerated on the island of North Captiva. Not only are there commercial lots available, but it goes against our comprehensive plan. The LEED plan protects North Captiva from urban expansion and is supposed to maintain low-density development on the island. Number two, the proposed facility will continue to be an eyesore. Currently, this residential lot looks like a trash dump location for everyone to see as they pass by or visit the island. This lot is on the main drag of the island, and it is disgusting to look at when driving by, as well as those that own homes around this lot. Owners and visitors should not have to see this every day. We spend too much in insurance and taxes to be forced to look at this. It will only benefit LCEC while hurting property values of those around the proposed facility. The rezoning of a lot must not hurt those RS1 lots around it per code. Number three, environmental factors. This facility will be detrimental to the area. Adding a substation will cause constant noise, lights, and emit cancer-causing radiation. Again, the surrounding homes will have to deal with these factors and have their property values decrease. Also, the septic is a problem for this lot. Constructing a septic system on this lot might not be possible, and Safety Harbor more than likely will vote to not allow LCEC to hook up to their system. The wildlife will also be impacted by the constant noise and lights of this facility. Endangered species such as gopher tortoise and indigo snake will more than likely be forced out of this area due to the disturbing nature of the facility. Number four, Lee County Ordinance 9223 strongly limits urban expansion on our fragile ecosystem of an island, hence should not be allowed. Number five, Florida law and our LDC strongly limits rezoning in RS1 areas, and the proposed rezoned area must demonstrate compatibility with surrounding use. We have received final plans, and the proposed facility will not be compatible with the residential homes, causing noise, lights, radiation, and enhanced construction traffic, as well as DOH issues with the septic. Number six, this is the final one, the lack of compatibility and no public utility compliance, as well as being in direct violation of the LDC and comprehensive plan. This proposed facility and rezoning should be denied. LCEC is a multi-million, maybe billion-dollar company. They saw an opportunity to save a few bucks and purchase a residential lot instead of a commercial lot. They are trying to cram this facility and substation down the throats of the island owners. We are grateful for LCEC when they repair our electric, but rezoning this RS1 lot and proposing a substation is not acceptable. It will disrupt our quiet island. The island has had electricity since 1982, and we have done fine without the LCEC facility. We don't need one now. Also, please remember how much we pay in taxes each year. I pay over $20,000 in taxes for this island home each year, and we, the owners out here, get very little, if anything, in return. We have to beg anything for our roads to be repaired or for our fire department to get equipment. We pay to have our garbage removed off island. We have to fundraise for the fire department and other important causes. We chose to purchase a home on this island, but the islanders are choosing not to support this rezoning and not to allow LCEC to disrupt our peaceful way of life. We deserve to be listened to. The way I see it, we pay a ton in taxes and get nothing in return. Lee County should not be able to force something the island owners don't want. Thank you, Erica Maynard Julius. So those are one more letter. To whom it may concern, our names are Jeremy and Amy Fremen. We are longtime owners on North Captiva, currently 601 Rum Road and previously 577 Coral Circle. We fully support LCEC and the commitment to improving and upgrading the electrical infrastructure of the island. We do object to the rezoning of residential property to a commercial property. Specifically, in regards to this hearing, the property on Spanish Gold and Hodgepodge. A commercially zoned lot is currently available on North Captiva. We strongly encourage and support the substation being located at that location. We're sending our written objection to Lacey Farley as we are unable to attend the 626 hearing in person. If anything further is needed, please let us know. Thank you, Jeremy and Amy Fremen. And just so you know, I mean, most of the homeowners, they don't even know this is happening because they're all out of state. I mean, I've heard from homeowners that are literally within the area that are supposed to get letters that have not gotten letters. So it was just through a last-minute Facebook blast, basically, and calling ones that we, do have their direct contact information to even get what we've gotten. You would have had, if this was in December, this room would have been busting at the seams with homeowners because we are all against it. But anyway, getting back to my statements. So first and foremost, LCEC is claiming this rezoning is essential. I believe that that's categorically false. I'm not saying they don't need a substation or they don't need housing or whatever. Now, again, it's been stated, it's been done without in the past 40 years, why they need it now, whatever, but there are places to do it. And in fact, there are 3 commercially zoned lots, one of which would be really good for their purposes. It's basically around the bend. This map doesn't show it, but it's in a commercial area away from homes. It's pieces of 8. So be to the right and then down. Mark, if you see it before I do.
Scroll down.
Keep going down.
Other way, other direction.
Oh, sorry.
Up.
Okay, go up. Okay, see that house right there, right there? That's it.
Yes.
There's a commercial lot right there, and then there's that house right there.
Yeah, and you can see all along the right, that's our trash removal, that's our barge company. So, it's a very commercial area. And what makes it perfect, and by the way, the sale price is $1.1 million. So, it could probably be had for under $1 million, I don't know. LCEC bought that lot. They keep saying because it's perfectly located across the fire station. I would have to challenge that most substations don't have to be directly across the street from a fire station. That property was purchased because at the time, and even now, it was the cheapest by far on the island at $135,000 because it was deemed unbuildable. So they came in, they bought the cheapest property that they could get, and now they're proposing all this rezoning, all this trouble that the homeowners don't want, instead of spending a little more money for a commercial lot that has its own dockage so they could pull right up with their equipment, which would cut down on half the wear and tear. We have sand roads that we have to constantly be refinishing, and that's from golf carts, battery-operated golf carts on them, and the occasional tractor for someone building a house. LCEC right now has 2 tractors on that property, at least 1 or 2 trucks, a gas-operated UTV, and they are barging equipment to a slip and then having to transport it back and forth. So, which opens up the question, where are these studies that they're supposed to present us with about noise pollution, about lights, about the wear and tear on our roads? They're saying, oh, well, we've looked at that and it's negligible. Well, we would want to see the actual reports, and we would think that the county would want to see those as well before they approve something that most of you here probably haven't even been to North Captiva, so you don't even know what it is we're trying to preserve. But anyway, that property also already has a big house on it that could be remodeled. Granted, it's not fancy, but it could easily be remodeled. All this could be done without disturbing the island or the residents or getting code variances that I assure you, it's been made out today like, well, the island, they're not going to use those easements because we never could see them building roads and stuff. Well, that's not the rules that we have to live by out there. we have to fight tooth and nail if we have something infringing on that easement by 5 inches, you know? So the fact that now it's like no big deal to take over these easements is just bizarre to me. Again, there's something available right now. This is not a cheap company. This is a close to $1 billion company that has the funds to do things the right way and not trample over the entire island to save a few bucks. But anyway, going on, I've digressed, sorry. It's very emotional to me. So, okay. And they're a for-profit company, by the way. You know, again, yes, we need electric, but, you know, and they do, you know, provide electric, but it's not like they're not making money doing this. It's not like they can't afford to go this route. So anyway, okay, so next, Conflict of Order Statute 163.3194. I'm not an attorney. I'm putting that out there. This is just information I've gathered that I hope is helpful, and at least it'll go on the record if it is helpful. Comprehensive plan consistency. Rezoning must comply with Lee County's comprehensive plan. We believe this rezone violates the plan's barrier island development protections. It violates goals 1.5 and 107, which prohibit the increased development intensity in CHHA zones. Number 3, illegal spot zoning for private gain. Rezoning for a single parcel surrounded by RS1 zoning benefits only LCEC and is legally considered spot zoning. The parcel is the only non-residential use in the surrounding area, creating land use imbalance with the exception of a fire station. Number 4, failure to prove least disruptive utility location. LCEC has not demonstrated that this is the least disruptive site available for utility purposes. As stated, there are 3 commercial properties for sale right now. And a year and a half ago when they bought, I know there was at least one of those were available even at that time. No analysis of co-location with existing public facilities was provided. Number 5, violation of barrier island protection and CHHA development rules. The parcel lies within a CHHA coastal high hazard area and the barrier island overlay zone. So development here increases the risk to life safety and conflicts with stormwater and floodplain mitigation. I have a note here. You guys had so much information, so let me just check my note here. Yeah, okay. So, okay, number 6, failure to provide compatibility study. We have, in my opinion, we have seen very little studies today, in fact, but that's one. You know, no traffic studies, as I mentioned, noise, residential buffering studies were provided. In fact, it was, you know, mentioned already, you know, even just the plants. I mean, I'm no major horticulturist, but there were several of the plants that were listed that are absolutely, yes, by textbook, they're salt hardy, but obviously the people that did that planning have never come to our island, because I can tell you, for one example, cocoa plums will look like you poured battery acid on them the first king tide we have. We had long established ones in the whole safety harbor unit. If you go back to the property.
Can you just zone out maybe, Sharon, so that way you don't have to.
Yeah, so zoom back in to where we were. Now you see these things, and by the way, again, showing the lack of education. Someone earlier called these condos on the right. These are not condos, these are townhomes, but whatever. But those townhomes were completely wrapped. In fact, the whole road in Safety Harbor, that whole road going through was wrapped in cocoa plums. And the first big storm we had with the flooding, they are all gone, every one of them dead. And I may be wrong, but I could swear I heard that they are not planning a sprinkler system. Even palm trees that are very salt tolerant and very drought tolerant, they have to be watered in. I can show you my neighbor just across the street from me has 5 dead palm trees lying in his driveway because he didn't have sprinklers. I mean, it's just, again, it's just very frustrating because we are on the island. We know what we want. We know what we need. And that's not gonna gonna fill it. But anyway, so enough about the study. So number 7, site and infrastructure limitations. So this is the really big one, I'm gonna think, for a lot of us. So they are talking about, and it's almost like, it's just no big deal from what I'm hearing from zoning and everything. Oh, well, we'll just, yeah, we can change the setbacks and the easements. And again, we can't do that. They're there for a reason. They don't have a crystal ball. They don't know. In fact, the subject of paving our roads constantly comes up. The subject of a lot of these things come up because we are tired of paying all these taxes and taking care of our own roads and having to pay for everything out of pocket. So the question does come up to the community. So we don't know what we might need those easements for in the meantime. But I can tell you one thing, every single house on that island has to comply with those easements. So why should LCEC get a free ride when they can spend a little of their money and get a property where they don't have to do all that? And then even more importantly, I would like to know if this proposal to change these easements, how that will affect my easement on that property. I have my septic. You'll see the one area that, and by the way, this is not a recent picture. I'm going to give you a recent picture of what this lot looks like. This whole area is my easement, legal easement for who knows how many years, for my septic and my field, my septic field. So nothing was mentioned to me, which was really disturbing as to what happens with that. So, does them taking these easements, is my septic being utilized as part of that easement?
And I don't generally.
No, please.
There seems to be some confusion. So the deviations that they're requesting don't extinguish the easements. What they're asking for is that the code requires measurement from the edge of the easement from that point into the property. So they've asked for deviations to not count essentially the easement line, but rather the property line essentially is what's happening. So they will still be providing the setbacks, but they're changing the point of measurement. But the easements themselves are not being affected. So vacating the easement would be a separate process that they gave testimony that they are not doing. So what the easements will remain, it's simply where they're taking the line of measurement.
So basically you're saying this will not be encroached upon?
Your private easement, I don't know. That was not discussed, and so.
See, and I find that really suspicious that it is clear as day to the point where when they bought this property in, I don't have the exact date in front of me, December/January of 2024, they acted like they were not even aware of that easement. And it is clearly in documents. And they acted like they weren't aware of it because they were driving all of their tractors and heavy equipment over it. And then they were parking big, heavy equipment all over my septic field to the point where they broke it in 3 places. And totally side note, they haven't done a thing about it. But anyway, even now they're encroaching with their equipment on my 5-foot setback that's supposed to be around my septic field. So, it's a real concern that, and we are all asking this question. Before we got here, we thought for sure it would be addressed, and especially during the break, that they're basically saying, well, we don't know what we're going to do with for a well and for water, and we don't know what we're going to do for septic, because if they're not allowed to mess with my easement, I guess if zoning approves them taking, all the easements, maybe they'll have room. But right now, you know what, let me just show you the picture. Actually, Taylor, can I borrow your copy of the picture of the lot, because mine is, I wrote some notes on it. Is there a way to get this up there?
He's got it on his computer.
Oh, you do? Okay, great. Can we make that night? Oh, no, not that one. I have one. That one is from Taylor's property and it's not as good. Is there a way to get this?
I mean,
It would have to be
they
electronic.
emailed it to me, and when I print it, it's the same. It's the same
Oh,
picture.
no, that's his. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me get mine. Sorry. Okay.
Just to go back one moment to your easement question.
Yes.
If it's a private easement, that's a private matter, so that's not something that zoning would look at or that I can look at in this request. That's something that the parties will need to discuss. But the master concept plan is supposed to show all utility and drainage easements and those things. So that will be something that they'll address on rebuttal, just to
Okay.
make sure that it's complete. But I just wanted to address that.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, you guys can't see this, but I'm going to show you. This is what that property looks like right now.
And what is the vantage point? This is taken from the north, from your
This
property
is
line?
actually from my balcony, so if you go back to, you know, the map, this is taken from right here. So this is showing, you know, a better view, because, I mean, I can take pictures from the road. Wink News took pictures from the road, you know what I mean? And it shows, but you look, we've got 2 tractors, a pickup truck, a UTV, 1, 2, 3, 4 dumpsters that are literally overflowing. There's all this in the easement. They're crowding my septic. I mean, this is why we're upset.
And
This
did-
is how it started.
Did you want to enter that into evidence? If so,
Please.
I'll have a copy made so that the
Yes.
applicant can get a copy as well.
And if it would be easier, I can email you these things.
I can ask her, but I want to get a copy while we're
Okay,
on the.
okay, great.
Just for the two, we need one for our record and one for the applicant. And well, actually 3, one for staff, 2 please, yes. Thank you.
Okay, so if for some reason, because I don't pretend to understand everything we're talking about here, but if for some reason that my septic field is encroached on, this is a constructive taking of my easement, if that were to be the case. I'm hearing that you're saying it's not.
Private property
Okay,
matter that we can-
okay, I understand. So, okay, so again, though, even with, I mean, we're just wondering, if you look at that picture at the massive amount of equipment, and by the way, this has gotten worse, not better. This is, every time I go out there, which is at least once a month, I try to go once a week, but you know how it is. So every time I go out there, there's more equipment, not less. So we as residents are finding it very hard to believe that they're gonna build this house and they don't have room for what they have out there. So we're kind of wondering how they think they're gonna park 2 tractors, a pickup truck, a gas UTV, in fact, 2 UTVs at the time of this picture. And you know, all this stuff, there's no way. It's gonna continue to look like a junkyard. And you know, we can only go by what's happened thus far, right? So they bought the property in December, January of 2024. They immediately came out and in one day bulldozed dozens of trees and dozens of plants, which brings me to another picture, if you want to bear with me here for a second. So this is the county's aerial of that property right before LCEC bought it and bulldozed all the trees. And you can see it is completely wooded.
And have these been provided electronically to staff? Did you say, Sharam, you have these?
So we just found out today, and a lot of us aren't real thrilled about it, that nothing in our packet said that we had to bring a thumb drive. So we all printed things out to bring to you. And, you know, we want it.
We can make copies. I just want to be sure.
Perfect.
If it's electronic, then we.
Yeah, and I have all this on my phone. If I need to, I can, you know, email it instead, or it's on my computer, of course, at home, if that would be easier. But, yeah, so this brings up another question. Someone came up and they said, well, we did studies on the turtles or the wildlife, and we did studies on the natural fauna. I would challenge when those studies were done, because I lived in that house at 4511, and I can tell you in no uncertain terms, there was a family of tortoises living on that property. I have pictures of them with my kids. They would travel through our lot every day, and they would come back and forth to their home on that lot. So I called the Florida Wildlife Commission about it when I found out they bulldozed the entire property except for a few perimeter trees. And they came out, but they said that they couldn't find any evidence of them because everything was bulldozed and leveled, and immediately LCEC put these big giant plank things all down kind of to form like a parking lot, basically. So of course they're not there now. There's, they can't find them because they've all been bulldozed. So I would be curious when those studies were performed, because, and as a side note too, something that has really upset us residents is those trees were all bulldozed, to our knowledge, with no permit. We have to get a permit to remove a Brazilian pepper tree from our property, which we're mandated to remove. We are required to remove them, and we have to get a permit. But LCEC can come in with tractors, which I have a video of them doing, and just clearing it out in one day with impunity. So anyway, so again, talking about the wildlife and these are not friends to our community. They had zero regard for us, and they have shown they have zero regard for the last year and a half. I mean, you saw that picture. It's a disgrace. I mean, we have tons and tons of young children that stay in those homes around there and come, and this is an attractive nuisance. I can't imagine kids not wanting to climb all over that stuff in the middle of the night when no one's looking, because it's just wide open. The weeds are literally, I was there just a couple days ago, the weeds were almost up to here, which means they have never been trimmed since the day that lot was purchased. Well, basically since they bulldozed it. And those are just what grew back. So, okay, so septic, that is huge to us. It was our understanding that they had to prove every part of their project before it could move to the next step. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe they have to prove that at the next hearing, but I would think that would be pretty critical before they got approval, that they had to prove how they're going to do their septic and how they're going to do their well. Because there's definite constraints there. Even if you change the easements, there are constraints. And they're not using my septic system. And every single person homeowner I've talked to at Safety Harbor, where initially they were talking about hooking into theirs, they've said we have no idea how they could do that. We are at capacity, and they're all against the project. And they all have to vote. So even if the higher ups at Safety Harbor were like, well, we think it's a good idea, everybody has to agree. It's like, I mean, it would take a miracle. But anyway, so that's a real big concern. What are they doing for the septic? So, okay, so 9 active code violations. So, we touched on this already, or I did. It's disturbing to me to see someone from code get up here and say, well, yeah, we know that there's been some complaints, and but the new building will fix all that. Well, what about the last year and a half? I personally have filed 2 complaints to code, and I know of several other homeowners that filed complaints with code. And the last we checked, they are not even on record. And I called and questioned the supervisor about that. I said, where are my code complaints? Why are they not on here? Why is nothing being done? So you might wonder, well, why are you bringing this up? Because I'm not code, we're not code, that's a different division. But, that's our protection as homeowners. We are protected by the zoning, and then that's our first line of defense. And then our second line of defense is supposed to be from code enforcement. Well, both have failed us for a year and a half. They have done this, and nothing is even on record that our complaints were filed. No fines have been, issued. So the reason why this concerns us is LCEC can show us this beautiful building, and we're going to maintain the property, and we're going to keep these bushes and trees nice, and we're not going to have any garbage outside of this building. We're designing it to house it all. We have zero confidence in that, and we have zero confidence in the fact that when it still looks like a junkyard, that when we call code, that they're going to do anything about it. And in the meantime, they've already rezoned it. Our property's values have already dived. All these things. I mean, it's just over and over. There's so many issues with this project that Just if they would spend a little more money and go commercially, we wouldn't be doing this. We would not all be taking our time off from work and staying up sleepless nights. And I mean, it's just crazy to us. But anyway, so the wildlife, yeah, that was not taken into consideration. The trees were not taken into consideration. This was done on January 12th, by the way. The bulldozers came in and they laid the parking lot just January 12th. And so again, I would challenge when those environmental studies were done, because if they came after that, yeah, they're not going to see turtles there, and they're not going to see trees that shouldn't have been cut down. So just as a form to, introduce this, this is one of the 3 commercial lots that is available. They're asking 1.1. And just for clear disclosure, I have absolutely zero connection to any of those lots that are for sale. I have zero to benefit from it. I don't even know who owns them. But that property is a very, very good option. No rezoning, no taking easements, away from residences. You would not hear a peep out of the island if they built a substation there. So something else that really concerned a lot of us. The first meeting, I guess by law, I don't know all the laws, but that was done, public meeting, February 25th. So Avalon engineers posted their notice for the meeting. They posted it on Sanibel Captiva Islander, which is Sanibel Island, has nothing to do with us, so of course none of us saw it, but that's beside the point. Maybe they posted it in other places, but I can tell you for a fact, none of us homeowners found out about it until our fire chief posted something to our Facebook page saying, hey, this meeting's gonna take place in, basically it was less than 72 hours. It was 3 days later. So most of us, again, could not be at that meeting because none of us knew about it. But what is really disturbing is I have this notice here, and they said action requested, rezone the subject parcel from RS1 residential single family to CFPD community facilities plan development to permit the development of, this is the important part, an essential service facility to serve the electric needs on the island. That's what we were told, okay, in their posted, So then the meeting occurred, and you'll get people that were physically at that meeting. I was in a different state, could not attend. I did get cliff notes from several of the homeowners, but again, there's ones here that were physically there. So what was discussed at that meeting, among other things, was they were going to build a facility for storage, and not one word has ever been said about a substation until 10 days ago, when the sign was posted on the property. It said the building of an office and substation. And then, of course, the letter we received for this hearing said, for the purpose of building an office and a substation. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but it's my understanding that they can't change things midway without starting over. If the homeowners had known that they were proposing a substation, not just rezoning, but proposing a substation, if they had known back in February, I guarantee you we would have all been breaking open our piggy banks to hire a fleet of attorneys to fight this. But instead, we find out 10 days ago that they're proposing a substation. And that does not seem right, because we feel very ill-prepared at this meeting today to fight a substation next to homes. These are all homes. And again, I just can't stress upon you enough, they're close to homes. This isn't, I brought Wink News out, and I had told them, I had given them pictures, and even they were like, what? We had no idea. We pictured the houses like at the end of a road. They're like, this is like spitting distance to houses. I said, I know. So anyway, this was their public notice, not saying anything about a substation. So, okay. And again, if you look at that picture, that first picture I gave you of the actual condition of that property right now, how in the world they plan on housing 2 tractors, 1 or 2 pickup trucks, and 2 UTVs, and all of that equipment, it is physically impossible.
Everyone, I can't hear what she's saying. I'm sorry. I'd like to give her my full attention. Thank you.
So anyhow, so kind of in closing, LCEC claims to want what's best for the island, but the conditions of this property for the last year and a half show that not to be true. They have somehow been immune to code violations for not obtaining permitting to remove dozens of trees. They have somehow been immune to code violations for using a residential lot for commercial purposes for the last year and a half. Our community has plainly seen for the last year and a half how LCEC plans to use this lot, and that's with zero regard or respect for our community. We respectfully ask that you deny this rezoning, since there are commercial properties available to LCEC that would absolutely fit their purposes, making rezoning, changing easements, all of this unnecessary. This parcel cannot support the proposed development due to zoning, setbacks, septic restrictions, land use laws, DOH regulations, and incompatibility. It is incompatible with RS1 and inconsistent with the LEED plan. It lacks adequate space for structure, equipment, septic, and setbacks, and the substation equipment poses serious health and environmental risks. I wouldn't live next to that, and I would guarantee you most of the people in here would not live next to a substation. I don't think the board of directors on LCEC would allow a substation right next to their house. And what they've done for a year and a half, they would never have gotten away with that, not for a week in the middle of Punta Gorda Isles in Punta Gorda, where I live, or in Port Royal down in Naples. They've gotten away with this because the nature of our island and the fact that the residents aren't around a lot. And, you know, anyway, and we've just been eyeball deep in fighting, you know, insurance companies for 3 years. But anyway, the rezoning would allow a private for-profit corporation to sidestep zoning laws, environmental protections, and community integrity. Again, this is an almost $1 billion for-profit corporation that will profit from rezoning this residential lot, while us homeowners are not billionaires. We will see our property values dive. We thank you for your time, and we implore you to vote to deny.
Everybody can hold, sorry. And just so I don't know if I said this earlier, we're taking notes as you're going through things, and as I said, we don't typically discuss during public testimony. What we're doing is we're taking notes, and then the applicant and staff will address those. So with respect to the notice question that you raised, they've got to comply with, I think it's 1702 off the top of my head. So they'll address that and ensure that all the noticing was properly done. So your notes have been accepted. I just want you to know.
Thank you.
They're not being addressed at the
And I appreciate you, by the way. I know you probably would rather be doing something else today, but
Thank you.
Thank you.
for coming.
Could I get she read the letters, I don't have the
Oh, do you
spellings.
have, I'm sorry, ma'am, do you have the letters that you read into the record? Could we,
yes,
could
I
we
can get those to you.
accept those so the court reporter has those and we have them for evidence?
Yes, absolutely.
And the other items for the applicant, I'll make copies and be sure that you have copies of everything that's being submitted.
All of them here.
Okay.
Oh, I think this was something up here, sorry.
Sorry.
I gathered everything.
It's part of the record.
That does not
You're
look
good.
familiar.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe this is them, all of them. I didn't want to staple them in case.
Thank you.
know,
No, we'll
but
need to
they
make
are,
copies.
This one is on its own. This one is, I did label them 1 of 2, 2 of 2.
Okay.
That's another one, and another one. It's just that one that's 2 pages long.
Okay, and I'll take these as composite exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just put these here. Okay, the next card that I have is for Desiree Wilson. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Desiree Wilson. I am a local business owner. I'm the managing partner of a law firm here in Fort Myers. Not this type of law, so please excuse any ignorance that I have as I talk about this. But more importantly, for these purposes, I am a landowner, a property owner. In fact, the property that I own is located right here. I didn't get any notice of any of this happening. I don't know any townhouse owner that did. I don't know what the notice requirements are for something like this because, again, it's not my area of law, but certainly I would have expected that something other than a Facebook post would have notified us of something this huge happening. I know the applicant has stated that this is completely consistent with the zoning that exists around the area. It is not. It is categorically opposed to the existing zoning. It will change the character of this island. This island, for the people that haven't been there, is fragile and rare and delicate. Environmentally, very sensitive. There's no gas-powered vehicles on the island, with the exception of a lot of the ones that LCEC is using out there. The islanders are generally categorically opposed to that. This area is residential. I know that the applicant noted the fire station is CFPD, but what they didn't highlight is the fact that everything else around there is residential. These are not condominiums. These are not high-density housing. These are the virtual equivalent of single-family homes that are attached to each other. Low-density housing, that is what is consistent with this area. It's not necessary either for them to do this there. I question whether it's necessary at all. LCEC has, to my knowledge, provided services out there since 1982, and to date, we haven't had this kind of development out there. LCEC has been able to address the concerns with the electricity without this kind of substation existing out there to date. And it's not like this is an island where you, on the mainland, you have room for expansion. Population increases substantially, creating different needs for utilities. That doesn't exist out there. Out there, it's a very confined environment. It is extremely limited in how far it can expand population-wise. There isn't an increased need that would justify the necessity of developing this or changing the zoning. The population is about the same. And it can't get any bigger because the island, as we saw from the big aerial view, it's really limited in terms of how many people live on the developed side of it. The other thing weighing against the necessity aspect of this is the existence of multiple commercial lots that would be so much more appropriate for this. We're not going to have the noise issues that the homeowners are going to have to deal with day in and day out. We don't have the same environmental concerns. If they have dockage right there, they're not going to have to be traipsing across the entire island doing what they're doing now. I don't know why they have not tried to do this on an actual commercial lot. They're talking about housing a great deal of equipment, heavy machinery, workers, that sort of thing. All of that, and I'm taking it in layperson's terms, that screams commercial. And I know that we're not talking, there's all these intricacies with zoning law that I'm no good at, admittedly. But all of that sounds a lot more to a layperson like a commercial use. It would be fine up there. Why does it have to happen in the middle of a neighborhood? Why do all of these townhouse owners have to now deal with a substation in their backyard and all of the health risks that come with that? The noise. The applicant noted that the noise is not going to be an issue, like we're just supposed to take their word for that. Well, maybe the noise that an electric substation makes on the mainland isn't an issue when it's located in close proximity to a house. There are no electric vehicles on that island except the ones that LCEC is using. It's quiet, it's tranquil, it's peaceful. Any amount of noise above the baseline there is significant. And I think that that's something they're kind of glossing over, is our baseline noise level is nearly silent, and that's something about the magic of that island. It's fragile, and I don't know how much harder I can emphasize that. It is an island that's loved by everybody out there, and the homeowners out there are almost categorically opposed to this. We pay a great deal in taxes, and has already been noted, we don't get a lot out of that. What we do get is protection of our way of life out there. We get protection of the pristine nature of the island, and please don't take that from us. Please. You're our line of defense, and the environment's line of defense. It's my understanding that that lot, contrary to what the applicant has noted, was not undisturbed, or it was not disturbed. It was undisturbed. It had lush plant life. It had protected species living on it, and they basically dozed it over. The environmental impact has already been felt, and if this is approved, it's only going to get worse. The applicant has noted the challenges of providing services and saying that this is necessary because they need a place to leave their equipment on the island. This is not the only place that they can do that. They can do it at a lot more appropriate place on a commercial lot. And I just want to hammer down the fact that this is absolutely not compatible with the surrounding uses. Where it would be compatible is on one of the commercial lots that is available for this type of development. Just want to make sure that I've got everything here. The other concern that I have is that the applicant did admit that they don't have specific plans in place for the water sewer issue. I'm a member of Safety Harbor Club. It's a planned unit development on the island, and it includes those townhouses that you see there, and it's quite large in relation to the rest of the island. There is no way Safety Harbor Club is going to approve them hooking into our wastewater treatment plant, because Safety Harbor Club cares about the character of this island. And there's no way they're going to approve that. I'll just tell you, it takes a supermajority to approve something like that, if not unanimity, and it's not going to happen. I know that we're not here today to discuss this, but it's something that should be taken into consideration. This is going to tank our property values, and that's something I guess we'll have to go after LCEC for if this is approved and if it happens. But it's something that should at least be taken into account. Nobody wants a substation in their backyard. And I understand the applicant's position that, well, we could do that with the existing zoning. Well, can and should are two different things. And if we approve the rezoning of this property, the other problem that we're going to have is there's a lot of people that would like to rezone residential properties out there and do various things of a commercial nature. And if this is approved, it's going to open the door for more of that. This island can't take it. It can't take it environmentally. It is such a small island. It is so rare. It is so pristine. And if we start turning what are low impact, low density residential uses into something that looks a lot like commercial use, we're slowly degrading the quality of that island. I've had a connection to that island for about 20 years now. And it has changed, but it hasn't changed significantly. In the past few years, there have been significant efforts to change it, which have been fought tooth and nail by the owners out there for good reason. We're the ones that have to protect that island, and so are you. We can't open the door to these types of changes, because after that happens, it's going to be one after another. And once that character of the island is changed, you can't get it back. It's gone. It's gone forever, which is why we're all so emotional about this, which is why the people who could be here went out of their way to be here. And not a lot of people knew about this happening. And the previous speaker was correct. If the island knew about this, you would have this room full, bursting at the seams, with people screaming at this podium, "Don't do it, please don't do it." I think that's all I've got to say. You know, I just want to emphasize it is not consistent with the zoning of surrounding properties. There's potentially a notice issue here. There are serious environmental impacts that I don't think have been addressed. And I also question when that environmental study was done, because there were protected species on that property. There was lush plant life, and it's all gone now. I think it's going to get worse if the zoning change is approved. And I would just plead with you, please, because you are the first line of defense to the animal life, the wildlife, the plant life, every property owner out there who pays a ton of money in taxes and asks virtually nothing of the county. All we ask is protect our island. Help us keep it in the state that it is now. Don't change it. Don't open the door for other people to come in and turn this into something that exists everywhere else. This is rare. Please protect it. Please deny the application.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. The next card I have is for Scott Farley. I'm sorry, I don't want to stop you. Before we go any further, I still have a number of cards left. We do have another hearing this afternoon, so we're going to, I am sure, have to continue this to another day. I've given the dates to the parties. Do you both have those? If you can just start reviewing those, because we'll need to wrap up around noon, so we've got about a half an hour left, and so we'll get through as many people as we can in that period of time, and then we'll state on the record what the continuation date will be, and then we'll resume at that time. But I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Thank you for coming today.
Hi, Scott Farley.
Thank you.
Pretty much everything my wife Lacey said, 100%. Adamantly think this is a stupid idea for the island. The only thing that kind of I'm seeing about this is we've got experts that aren't experts. They bring in a guy that's supposed to know plant and landscaping, that he's got this nice plan. He doesn't know a thing about the island. What he's saying won't work. So how do we know anything else is going to work? We got another environmental guy that says the land's disturbed. Well, they disturbed it. It was perfect. I would go out there with my kids, watch the turtles, watch the snakes, pick up grass and feed the turtles. It wasn't disturbed. That property hadn't been disturbed forever. I mean, since, I don't know, it's never been built on. So they come out, experts come out and tell us all that they know about our island and what's good for us. But they don't know the first thing about it. And I question their honesty in their studies. Anyway, I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. The next card I have is for Richard Gross. Good morning.
Morning, Richard Gross. I live at 4501 Harbor Bend Drive. I've been there about 10 years now, and we've been visiting the island about 20 years before that, so I have a pretty good perspective on what happens on the island. I'd like to know are we allowed to ask questions to the applicant?
You can ask the questions, and as I said, we're just going to make notes of them, and then after closed public comment, we address them all at once.
I'd just like to know what their definition of a substation is, an electrical substation, or what it really means, and what different equipment they put on that site as opposed to what they're putting on the rest of the island. I don't know that they answer that now, or
again, we've got a number of questions that previous speakers have asked as well. We're making notes of those, and so
Okay.
we'll address them at that time.
To you, I'd like to know, there's a substation approval process in Lee County. In section 6A, the paragraph applies to the proposed placement or construction of a new electrical substation within a residential area. Before submitting an application for the location of new electrical substation in residential areas, the utility shall consult with the local government regarding the selection of the site. The utility shall provide information regarding the utilities. I don't know if I need to read all this, but it has.
I'm not sure what you're citing from. What code is that taken from?
It's the Lee County Substation Approval Process,
I'm not familiar.
section 6A.
I have jurisdiction under the Lee County Land Development Code 34-145. I'm very limited in what I can consider in these proceedings, and that is outside the scope of what I deal with. So I'm not familiar with what you're saying.
163.3208.
That's a Florida statute.
Yeah.
That's outside, again, of the scope of this proceeding. If you go to Lee County Land Development Code 34-145, that's where the hearing examiner's office is created, and it sets forth in subsection D zoning matters, and it says exactly what I'm allowed to review, and it's limited in scope.
So you're not allowed to review it?
That is
There's
outside.
another venue that we'd have to
That is a
take that
process
to.
that they will have to go through, but that's not this process.
They wouldn't do that first before they come here?
I don't know. That's not relevant to my proceeding today. What we're talking about is zoning, so it's about compliance with the Lee Plan, with the Land Development Code, so things about everything that you saw them put up on the screen earlier, about traffic, environmental compatibility, those are the things that I can consider.
All right. Well, my question is that I don't even think they need such a thing here, that there's no real reason to put it there. I know the power in the last storms, we were always ready at our island before we were able to get power from Captiva. So as far as expediting getting it done, really it's not necessary. I question why they're spending $1 million to house that they might not ever need. If there's no storm surge or whatever, they won't need that people to come there. Matter of fact, the way they're redoing the electric now, with the way they're using that site, they're raising all the transformers up, so they're probably not going to even need a substation like this. It's probably going to increase our rates by spending $1 million for a building that might not ever be occupied. So my question is, if they build that building and find they don't need it, maybe they'll sell it to the highest bidder and it'll be a single room occupancy hotel. So
They would have to, part of the rezoning process, they're rezoning it to a specific district, so it's community facility, so it's not commercial, and I know there was some nuance about that. But it's a community, so they're limited to the schedule of uses that they've proposed, which.
well, it could be a jail, right?
No, it can't. It's limited.
Isn't
in the
that,
schedule.
isn't that part of a,
No, sir, I'm answering your question.
Okay.
It's in the conditions. If you go to the staff report, attachment C, they set forth, there's less than.
oh, they
10.
put their restrictions
So
in?
they're restricted, yes, but if that is what they will be held to, and then if they wanted to change that, they'd have to go through this process again to change it.
I know they put down some environmental things, like putting the water that flows off the property, they were gonna wanna put a berm there, but in that section, actually the water flows into that property at times during a storm surge or during a heavy rain, and that'll just force it all onto the townhouses, which would be a real detriment to them. They have flooding issues already, and now this would exacerbate that. So for that reason, I think it should be denied. At one time, the whole island is a bird sanctuary, and with those trees that they knocked down, takes away some of the, habitat for the birds. But that already done without permission, I guess. As far as the water and the sewer, I know I'm in Safety Harbor Club. I know that the plant is now at capacity, and at times it's over capacity. If there's nobody there, yeah, it'd be fine to use it because they're not putting it in. But if they have 6 guys there at a high rate of time, it wouldn't work. So I don't think they'd be allowed. I don't know. There's just the trash that they talked about. They have 6-yard containers on the island that numerous places use. So that is not true either. The mechanical pad that they're talking about, is it on the ground or just only raised up?
Their testimony was it would be raised, but I can ask them to clarify.
And the only equipment that they're putting on there is a generator, a transformer, and an air conditioning
We're
unit?
going to have to clarify for us. That was one of your questions. So
Okay.
we know that.
The planting that they want to put next to the existing septic field that's there, is that going to interfere with that drain field?
Hold on, I'm sorry. I was looking at dates. Could you repeat that question? I didn't hear it.
He asked about the
The
impact.
planting that you're going to do around the perimeter, is that going to affect the existing drain field that the neighbor has on your property to their detriment? So I think a lot of the other stuff that I had here has already been addressed, so I think I'll hold off now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. The next card I have is for Taylor West. Good morning.
Morning, how are you? Name is Taylor West. I own the house 4521 that connects at the corner, kind of the, I guess, the northwest corner of this property. Can you share the picture, the one out my front door? So my property, you enter, the steps are on the side, on the right there, and you enter into the first floor, the main door, and this is coming from that perspective. That's the view out of my front door right now. So before they bought this lot, that view was a pristine tropical jungle. All kinds of wildlife, all kinds of natural plants. I also submitted video. Were you able to download that?
I got 2 pictures.
Okay, I sent you a link to the video, but I don't know if you can pull it up now.
To go through the things.
So they came out there one day. So they bought this residential lot that I know Mark's probably going to testify later about why it's not really a buildable lot to begin with. The cheapest lot on the island. And then they come out there, no notice to anybody. This is a commercial enterprise buying a residential lot in a neighborhood without any notice to anybody or approval. They come out one day with this massive machine, $250,000 machine, that's used for destroying forests to make way for rights of way for big utilities. They come out with that machine, and within half a day, they raised that entire lot. All of the plants on that lot, all of the trees. I submitted the video to him. Hopefully he will be able to download it and submit it as evidence of them with this machine out there. And within half a day, they did that, and then they put these massive pads down. I live in Texas. They're basically the same pads you would find on an oil drilling site to allow you to park heavy machinery on unstable ground. So immediately they put these heavy commercial industrial pads down on that lot and proceed to park what you see there overnight. No approval, no nothing, year and a half ago. The island uproar, outraged. I come out of my front door, this is what I'm looking at. At the same time, there were commercial properties available, immediately available in the industrial area of the island that, if you look at the way the island was designed, how they did the zoning, it's obvious why they did it that way. All the residential is here, the commercial industrial over here. Instead of doing that, they buy this lot in the middle of the residential part and overnight do this. That's the kind of neighbor they are. That's their behavior. That's their history. And for the past year and a half, we've been looking at this, everybody complaining, calling into the county, complaining. I don't know if there have been any fines even to date. And now all of a sudden they're asking for some approval to rezone this whole thing, to allow them to do even more. You know, they show you these pretty pictures, right? I don't believe those pictures. This is what they do. If they want to do that, let them do it in the right area of the island. As I said, you can look at the map. The zoned area for this kind of stuff is nowhere near where they're trying to do it. They did it because it was cheap. And they did it in the aftermath chaos of Hurricane Ian, when all the residents are trying to focus on doing their own repairs. They came in under cover of this chaos, buy this cheap lot, and do this. They were already using a lot like a block away that they had access to. There was commercial property available on the other side of the island. Didn't do that. They did this. Why? What's the motivation for that? The only motivation I can think of is cost. And why should we rezone that property for them to save money? Is there any other reason? Because it's next door to a fire station? Give me a break. You really need to put that next to a fire station? The fire station's there because it's in the middle of the island. It's a public safety issue for those firefighters to be able to get out to the properties they need to get out to in a timely fashion. There's no reason for a substation to be there. So I've submitted this photo. I have this other photo. I think people have submitted similar photos. This is just pointing out the commercial lot that's available right now. Mark is a realtor. You could call him. He'd be happy to sell it to you right today. And none of us would show up to protest it. I promise you that.
Everybody'd be happy.
Everybody can please hold your comments until you're speaking at the podium. Thank you.
So I think everyone covered, you know, the nature of the island. It's quiet. We don't even have gas-powered vehicles on the island. Everybody drives an electric golf cart. It is silent. In my house, I don't even have to go outside to hear it. It's a constant. You know the big beeping noises you hear from those commercial heavy machinery that they make when they do backup, and constant, all day long, in and out of that property with these big machines, beeping, loud exhaust noises. I mean, it's awful. And this is an island that we all bought our properties to be able to go to escape all that. But they're constantly going in and out of that property. Even if they put this beautiful picture that they painted for you, they're still going to be in and out of there with those commercial heavy machinery that should be over on the other side of the island where the zoning is and the development over there is created for those kinds of things. I shouldn't have to sit in my house and listen to that. It wasn't that way when I bought. It wasn't zoned that way when I bought there. Nor was it that way for anybody else when they bought there. But yet we have to listen to the noise. And that noise is not going to stop. Maybe the generators they're putting in there might be lower noise than normal. Who knows? They're telling us that as they're begging for this rezoning. But I know the machinery they're running in and out of there is not going to be quiet. They're rule breakers. Every rule that's been out there, they've broken it. The vehicles they use. They brought, it's like an F-150 or something. It's a regular pickup truck to an island where we all drive small electric golf carts. They're driving this big old pickup truck. The other commercial operations on the island have electric carts that can carry just as much or more than their gas-powered pickup truck. They get those in order to be consistent with the island and the rules of the island. But LCEC doesn't. I guess they don't have to play by the same rules? I don't know. But they go and they buy a pickup truck and bring it out to the island. Loud pickup truck. Fill it with equipment, off and on, all this machinery in and out all day, making huge noise. I'm asking you not to give them approval for that. There's plenty of property in the commercial area of the island. It's available. There's no reason whatsoever they couldn't put it there. In fact, there's every reason they should put it there. And I don't see any reason you would even think about allowing them to do that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. The next card I have is for Duncan Rosen. Good morning.
All right, good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. I'm also here to represent Lori Rosen as well as Ann Caroline Taylor. Both of them strongly oppose this project. So to start out, my name is Duncan Rosen, and I've been a full-time island resident since 2012. I'm also an island business owner, fire commissioner, and commercial landowner on the island. Keep in mind, I'm not here today in any official capacity as the fire commissioner. This is me personally being here. There's a lot of experts here today that really don't understand North Captiva. People vacation and reside on the island because of our remoteness, because of our natural beauty, our wildlife, and lack of commercial activity, that in my opinion. This project would be a horrible precedent to set, changing residential to CFPD. Imagine if you purchased your home here like Lacey, like Scott and Taylor. Would you want to unexpectedly have a giant substation in your backyard when you knew that you purchased next to residential? Frankly, Madam Hearing Examiner, don't let LCEC Captiva my North Captiva. Changing a road easement setback would be another bad precedent to set. While we don't have cars on island, we have a lot of heavy machinery, i.e. telehandlers, fire trucks. Where are those telehandlers going to be stored? LCEC currently has a truck, UTV, a lot of heavy machinery that won't be able to fit into this structure. I have a telehandler. I don't see how they can even get it in there. Do you know that this particular parcel flooded during Hurricanes Helene and Milton? In fact, the fire department had 4 to 5 feet in its bay. Did you know that a lithium-ion battery exploded during Hurricane Helene or Milton in that bay? We don't need another commercial structure in the middle of a residential area. Let's see. Sorry, I'm not a great public speaker, even though I'm a fire commissioner here, but why doesn't LCEC purchase existing commercial land? Because they're being cheap. There are 2 commercial parcels for sale that I know of. Heck, I'd sell one of mine to them if they want to buy it. They should put this structure near the commercial barge sites where those parcels are. Lastly, Madam Hearing Examiner, with all due respect, have you visited this site?
I have not been able to yet, and the code encourages
And
us to do a site
I'm not putting you on the spot, but I would love for you to come out, and I would love for you to put your eyes on the ground here, walk around, go up to Mainstay, maybe on your day off, have a cheeseburger and a cocktail, walk around and experience the island, rent a golf cart, drive around, and have a great day. I would love for you to do that before approving this project. So, in closing, I strongly oppose this project. I think that this project would be the beginning of the end of North Captiva. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Mark Muller is the next card I have.
Hi, I'm Mark Muller. I'm a full-time resident here for almost 25 years, a local realtor. And I think they've covered, a lot of stuff's already been covered, so I want to cover a couple things that haven't been covered by anyone yet. And part of it just is, this comes back to zoning. So this is Lacey's house, this is lot 1, and this property is lot 28. Okay. And So in 2001, those two properties were mudded together. So that became officially one property, okay? And as you know, this, with the zoning, if anything less than 1 acre, you can't go, you're not supposed to go split that back up. But that did end up getting split up. And let me go over the history real quickly and how that happened, because I don't think, just in case everyone doesn't know that, it's good to understand that history of why this became one property. So 2001, Ann Feltinguff, Lot 1, Lot 28 go together and they build the house. And that is actually why Lacey's septic is right here, because this was one property. And that's why there is currently a septic there. And it's just a weird set of events and why this happened. But anyway, so in 2005, Ann Feltinguff sells the property to Pat Burns.
Go down in 2005, what?
In March 29th, 2005, the owner of Lot 1 and 28, she built a house on it, got a MUD, built a house, got a permit for that one, lots 1 and 28 combined now is one property per the lead plan. And then, so she sells the property to Pat Burns in 2005. The deed shows, you know, Lot 1 and Lot 28. Then, but what happened was, it was actually a mistake. The first deed actually only included the legal description for Lot 1, which is Lacey's property where the house is now. So Pat Burns gets a mortgage, and the mortgage only shows Lot 1 on the mortgage. Now, so, you know, 10 days later, of course, the title company realizes they made a mistake and they record a corrected deed. Now, that did not get corrected in the mortgage. So, but the corrected deed showed, once again, one property, Lot 1 and 28 together as one property. Then, so December 30th, 2010, Pat Burns sells the property, lots 1 and 28 to Burns Management. Obviously, it's just her own entity. Now, she gets into financial trouble, and in 2014, September 19th, 2014, a lis pendens was filed on the property because she wasn't making her mortgage payments. It became a potential short sale, and but in November 22nd, a deed in lieu was filed. And it's interesting, but I think it was a Wisconsin attorney. I don't think they went off the original mortgage. And so when the deed in lieu happened, the deed in lieu only covered this legal description, even though technically it's almost like they were trying to foreclose on half a property. It's kind of an interesting situation, but so basically the deed in lieu only included this legal description. So Pat Burns is like, hey, I got something I can sell. So, but I would, based on the lead plan, that was already one lot, right? So that basically, in a sense, created a non-conforming parcel, correct? I wouldn't say it's illegal, probably non-conforming, or is maybe the word for it, but that became a non-conforming parcel when that deed in lieu was created, and it was a mistake. Basically, that never should have happened. That should have always been one property. It was made one property, it was built as one property, even has a septic on it. And this deed in lieu, this mistake that this Wisconsin attorney did for this bank that accepted, recorded this deed, and then essentially created a new lot. No, it wasn't, did not go through the MUD process. They did not go for a variance to try to split the lot. It was just a mistake on a deed, basically, that created this property in the deed in lieu, and then that property later got sold to this gentleman named Fred. That's not his legal name, but his legal name is Jeff and his sister, and they later sold it to LCEC. So that's the history of this, and I just thought I'd bring that up because I don't think, maybe you might not be aware that this was actually a parcel that was mudded together, lots 1 and 28, and here you have this non-conforming parcel that was always intended to be one residential parcel. And my feeling with that, I don't really think it's good for the island to create. I've done a lot of deals where I'm always trying to bring parcels together and mud them together. And what's that my goal here is to keep the density down on the island. And I don't want to create a precedent where we start splitting up these lots and all of a sudden, oh, that's a non-conforming lot, but oh, now it's buildable all of a sudden. Now it's something that we should develop. I don't believe that should be the case. I think when people mud two lots, two non-conforming lots together. Basically, I mean, we're grandfathered in based because they were created before the LEAF plan. Our zoning is 1 unit per acre in residential. But when we combine them, you can't go back. Well, this sets up be the first precedent in the island where we've combined two lots in a mud and then go split it up and then allow that to be built on. That's never happened before in the island, and it's not something I want to see happen. So that's something I thought I'd bring up. Now, the other thing I would just mention real quick is I can't say I'm for granting variances for setbacks from the road. We all have to follow them. It keeps space from the houses. I believe in looking toward the future. I mean, whereas I may agree with, I think I applaud LCEC for wanting to do things to improve our power grid and things like that. I don't like creating precedents that could have unintended consequences down the road, such as, well, for instance, splitting up mudded together lots. Variances for setbacks. These are, everyone else has a 20-foot setback from the road easement, 20 from the rear, and 7.5 from the side. I believe everyone should follow the same setbacks. And because once you start going 5 or 10-foot setbacks from the road easements, whether or not, you know, it's 15 feet, sometimes those aren't always being used, but it doesn't mean we should break that either. And I think that's a big argument for the island. We don't necessarily need 30-foot roads or 50-foot roads, but just because there's trees in that, I don't think it should be used as a reason to say, hey, we don't need those setbacks after all. I think that everybody's been honoring them. It keeps space between the houses. And I think the character of the island, space between houses is important. I mean, it's rather dense as it is, but we want our trees and our space. It's a natural habitat. We want to keep it that way. I think that's important for the island. And the only thing I would reference, if I believe, and actually, could you just scroll that over to the commercial property? And this is just for LCEC. I'd like you to consider purchasing this property that's roughly asking 1.2 million, like Lacey said. Maybe buy it for $1 million or something. And I don't care if it's me or anyone else, but you have dockage, right? That's useful to you. You're not relying upon someone else to barge your materials to site. You already have a structure that you can house people, and obviously it needs some work, but you can fix it up. Look at this. Is anyone going to complain if you park a telehandler into the yard? Probably not. This is all kind of barging commercial space here. So I think that property you should really heavily consider. And if you have to do a transformer, maybe you could put it on the front here where it's not next to, so you put a transformer here and all this equipment year round. Look at all these people you're affecting. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you know, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's like 13 people you're directly affecting within like 100 feet of what you're doing, whether it's noise or whatever. If you're over here, Mike Verona's not going to care what you're doing, okay? He's not going to be complaining about it. In fact, his is going to look a lot messier than what you're doing. So I think that would be something heavily to consider. Like I said, you have a structure, and I imagine if you're doing a transformer, I imagine you have 3 trunk lines that actually come in, 3 circuits basically that come in right through here, and then one goes up here, down this way, one comes down through here, one comes back and around, but basically they all come in right here. If you want to bring it down, you actually have to spend money, I would imagine, to bring this from here all the way to the site to your transformer, right? Because you want that transformer. It'd be a lot easier just come right from here and go boom, right to your transformer here if you're going to do it. So I think by buying that property, you have dockage. You should probably save money not having to rewire these circuits, 3 circuits all the way over to here from where it comes in over here. So I think it actually makes sense. And you're in a commercial spot that's having less impact on all these neighbors. So that's something I would ask you to heavily consider. I know you spent a lot going into this process, but this property wasn't available for it. And this gets you dockage, where you have complete control of bringing all your materials in and out and people coming and going and whatever. And there's already a structure there. If you look at the cost of building, I don't know if you've done your studies yet, but if you look at the cost of building on North Captiva, just a regular house starts at $700 a square foot. What you're doing is going to cost well above that. Maybe better off just building a little area for your transformer and parking your equipment here, whatever, maybe making a little garage or something, but housing your people. I think you'd be better off personally. So, and be better off for the island where you're not having impact on. Look at all these people. Very a lot of people you're directly impacting, whether it's their views, their noise, whatever. So I think it's something we should heavily consider. But anyway, I just wanted to bring up those points that I think anytime as in your position as a planner, you want to think of not just now, but everything you approve has potential unintended consequences down in the future. You have to think of, okay, like say I'm splitting up a mudded lot or creating, we're starting to build on non-conforming lots and things like that, easements, whatever, for setbacks, variances for setbacks and things. You always have to think of those unintended consequences. So I just want you to think of all these things and whether there's maybe a better location. And for LCEC, I'd like you to consider moving to a better spot that I actually think would cost the same amount of money when all is said and done and be more useful. And if you ever did sell it, it'd be a lot worth. If you have a commercial property on the water, that's going to be worth a lot more money too. So I think it's the right business decision for you as well. So that is what I'd like to say. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, did the parties have a chance to look at the dates for continuance? Do we need to take a recess so you can discuss that?
So, Madam Hearing Examiner, I've looked at the dates on our end. I don't know what works for Mr. Vadamshin, but I'd really prefer July 25th, if that's okay with him.
That's fine with me.
Staff's available. Okay. So we will continue the hearing until Friday, July 25th at 9 a.m. I will resume with the cards that I have of the folks that haven't spoken yet, and we'll reconvene starting off right in the middle of public comment where we are right now. We'll basically just pick up. In between that time, though, there are definitely a lot of, you guys have heard everything that I heard this morning, and I would appreciate if you could focus on preparing your rebuttal and closing comments, addressing the issues that have come up. Particularly, it sounds like we need more clarification on the utilities options. That remains very unclear to me. There's been a lot of mention of other folks having say on whether septic gets approved or not, so I need clarification on that. If you could also ensure that all the required easements are provided on the master concept plan that's required under the LDC, that would be helpful. I believe it might have been stated when the environmental studies were completed, but that was a recurrent theme, if that could just be fleshed out a little bit further. There was a question on the stormwater berming, whether that would cause off-site flooding, so some further clarification of that would be helpful. And then that last issue about the buildability of the parcel, or if it's a lot of record, just to get that into the record. And then just generally, we're going to need more definition on the nature of the use, because the way it was presented, it sounded like a very benign use where it would just be equipment with no activity happening. But the photos that are shown and the testimony that's provided is that it's a very active site with very large equipment and materials. So I need to understand if that's going to continue or if that's going to be changed by virtue of this, and if so, where those activities are going to be moved. So we just need more clarification on those issues, but we'll resume again on Friday the 25th at 9. And I do want to thank everyone again. I know it's a trek to get out here, so thank you for making the trip. We'll pick it up again on the 25th of July, and I hope to see you then. Please stay well.
Thank you.